Alright, let's dive right into my story. Halo Reston, the rebel leader, confronts me then, his eyes burning with aggression. Did you truly think you could? With my own bloody sword lodged deep in my chest, I meet his gaze, my breath catching. I've lived for 29 years as an orphan. Why did you choose this path instead of fleeing? Cain, open your eyes. My bare feet walk serenely on shimmering blue water. I emerge from the shimmering blue, ripples fanning out around me. Where am I? I wonder aloud. Is this death? I walk across the glowing blue expanse, leaving a luminous trail behind me. This must be freedom, I think, but it's underwhelming. I look down thoughtfully, and a memory flickers through my mind. A vast, cosmic watery expanse surrounds me. I'll manage on my own, I realize, my expression contemplative. I stand in this ethereal, watery domain, contemplating whether to savor my newfound freedom. Then Pale appears, extending his hand towards someone with a wide, welcoming smile. Karen was born healthy and well, he announces proudly. I hear a wish for me to grow strong and healthy. Finally, Halo smiles contentedly, holding me in his arms. My youngest grandson, he murmurs, his voice full of warmth. All right, let's dive into this. I stand in my study, the faint scent of old paper clinging to the air, my gaze fixed intently on a small green book in my hands. I'm reading about Knight Cain later, who met his death alongside the evil emperor 45 years ago. He couldn't stop his lord from following a wrongful path, but in doing so, he became known as a symbol of unwavering loyalty. He stood by his liege until the very end. This completes the Modern History Society's latest opinion on Cain later. And what about your perspective, Professor? I ask, meeting his gaze. The professor just stares at me, a confused expression crossing his face. Perhaps the Grand Duke simply wanted to restore his friend's honor? I suggest to him. Well, Duke Halo and Lord Cain being friends is a well-known story, the professor replies, a note of certainty in his voice. Do you truly think that, Professor? I ask, a challenge in my tone. He looks surprised. What do you mean? He asks, bewildered. I begin to clarify. I believe my grandfather, Halo, held a grudge against his dead friend, Cain later. I elaborate, my voice firm. As Karen Reston, the 10-year-old third son of Halo Reston, and the only child of Count Pale, I've had a lot of time to observe. My grandfather wasn't just restoring his friend's honor. He was deliberately enhancing his name, building him into something more than he was. The professor reacts with shock, his eyes wide. What are you saying? He demands, disbelief etched across his face. I can see beads of sweat forming on his brow. He's visibly surprised. I demand to know what you mean, he reiterates, his voice rising. I explain calmly. My grandfather couldn't accept Cain choosing death instead of joining his revolution. I believe my grandfather disregarded Cain's wish for a quiet death, instead pushing him, molding him, into this grand hero. The professor falls silent, then mutters, almost to himself, a quiet death. Did Cain truly wish for that? A slightly ominous tone creeps into his voice. There are records, I state, though only hearsay, that the Grand Duke's duel with Cain later ended far too quickly for two men of their similar skills. His face is still flushed, beads of sweat on his forehead, a deep concern clouding his features. He's clearly deep in thought, processing my words. I continued to analyze the situation, wondering if Cain later chose death instead of joining his friend in a fight or revolution. Finding my claim reasonable, I concluded my thought and then asked the professor for his opinion. I could tell he found it remarkable that a mere 10-year-old could make such a deduction. I also knew agreeing with such an audacious opinion could cause the dukedom's knights to charge him with blasphemy. The professor nervously mumbled a hesitant reply, admitting he had never considered that perspective. I made an amused sound, which made him, still holding his long pointer, react with surprise. With a wide, mischievous grin and bright eyes, I revealed, I was only kidding about my previous remark. I leaned in slightly confident, asking him, why do you look so rattled? The professor stood silently, appearing to think or hesitate in response. My feet moved across the patterned floor. My name is Karen Reston, I stated. I walked through an ornate hall, considering myself the youngest grandson of the Reston dukedom, at least for the time being. My expression turned serious as I realized I had been reborn as the grandson of Halo Reston. I stood deep in thought, believing my grandfather Halo foolishly made me a hero. Pale sat solemnly at an ornately patterned table. I stood looking behind him, saying, Halo should have understood without being told. Pale was Halo's youngest son, making him my father. I cleared my throat, getting Pale's attention. He turned to face me. I approached Pale, who was praying at an ornate altar. "Is your lesson over?" he asked. "Yes, it is," I confirmed, then added, "Have you been praying again, Father?" Pale looked startled and concerned. I pressed him, questioning his persistent worries about the awakening ceremony. Pale reacted with surprise. "I'm sorry," Pale said, full of regret. "Sorry for what?" I asked. He then revealed he never awakened magic power, unlike my two uncles. Pale looked down, concerned, fearing he might have passed on that same burden to me. I called out to Pale, "What are you talking about?" I smiled, grasping his arm. "Father, you're the greatest," I declared, "no matter what anyone says." My declaration clearly surprised him. Flustered and emotional, Pale simply said, "Karen." He then embraced me, surprising me, and told me, "You are the greatest son." Pale then playfully pinched my cheeks. My face was comically squished and flustered. As twilight fell over the castle, inside my dimly lit room, a small, glowing blue crystal object floated midair. I lay in bed, looking thoughtfully at the glowing blue object near my hand, my mind on the awakening ceremony. All right, let's dive right into it. I found myself questioning this whole awakening ceremony business. I watched as Kane sat on some concrete steps, asking Halo about this. "Object." Halo just shrugged it off, calling it a dusty old family ritual. Halo, shirtless with a wooden sword slung over his shoulder, was in the training facility. But then I saw him also partially visible, still sitting on those steps. He went on to explain that this ceremony was all about unlocking your innate magic power. Kane then piped up, "So magic? Is that something you're just born with?" But then, almost immediately, he just waved it off. "Honestly, I couldn't care less about any of that," he said dismissively. Halo, unfazed, explained that it wasn't for everyone. Not everyone could even awaken magic power. I saw a smirk spread across Kane's face. Halo kept going, clarifying that even awakening magic power didn't automatically make you qualified to be the family head. A tremendous secret is passed down only to the family head. Halo just smiled, his wooden sword still resting casually on his shoulder. Kane's ears perked up. "A secret?" he questioned. He started speculating. Could it be some grand treasure? Or a grimoire that grants wishes? Halo actually seemed interested in that idea himself. "Now that would be interesting," he mused. Then Kane, almost hesitantly, asked again, "So, is this secret actually interesting? Maybe even just a little?" He suggested, "What if it's about finding a way to live quietly, somewhere remote?" Halo looked contemplative for a moment, admitting, "That's actually my modest aspiration." But then he scoffed, dismissing Kane's own dream. Kane retorted, "Are you mocking my modest dream?" He even reminded Halo, "Don't forget, I've got a weapon in my hand right now." Halo, with a determined gaze, tersely conceded the point. He looked at me intently, a slight frown on his face. But then he flashed a confident grin, gave me a thumbs up, and promised, "If I become the family head, I'll share that secret with you specially." I found myself sitting by a large window, light streaming through the glass, as I pondered this whole magic awakening ceremony. Suddenly, intense magic surged around my body, a powerful awakening happening right here, right now. I looked up, completely enveloped in this radiant energy. Addressing my father, I told him, "There's no need to worry." I stood tall, the swirling energy practically a part of me. Then, I unleashed a powerful magical surge, illuminating everything around me. My power escalated even further, my eyes glowing intensely. A confident, almost menacing smirk spread across my face. With clenched fists and surrounded by my magical aura, I asserted, "I completed my magic awakening a long time ago." The scene shifted again, now to a bustling city. My mother asked someone, "Are you amazed?" I confirmed my own amazement, exclaiming, "Yes, I'm amazed. This is my first time on a train." I stood there, a bit pale, on the train platform as a magnificent, steam-emitting train pulled in, completely capturing my attention and everyone else's. My mother, Pale, the bald mustache man, the maids, and I were all gathered on the platform. My mother explained that this impressive train technology was all thanks to my father's sponsorship. I reacted with surprise. I knew it. Pale chuckled, telling my mother, "My dear wife, you're flattering me." My mother just winked and smiled back at Pale. "Even if you say so, it's still a truly great accomplishment." Pale just nodded in agreement. I reassured my father, telling him just how proud I was of him. Pale just laughed, telling me I was embarrassing him, but I just smiled. This man supported 30% of the Reston dukedom's finances, even without awakened magic. With a mother who is always so kind, I saw both Blue Jewel Woman and Pale smile warmly, and a father so devoted to his family. I looked forward with a slight smile, a contemplative thought crossing my mind. They really were the perfect parents. Inside a lavish reception room, a maid stood calmly. She was instructed to wait here while the Count greeted family elders and to call if she needed anything. The bun-collar woman acknowledged the instructions, and I offered my thanks. I surveyed the vast room, visibly impressed. "It's huge," I commented. "The Azure Sea Fortress really is impressive." I gazed out a grand window at the city. There was nothing to do. I wished I had asked to visit the library. Suddenly, a loud fuhu rang out. Leo, arms crossed and looking smug, confronted me. He immediately pointed out my interest in the library, calling me a bookworm, just as rumors suggested. My expression was confused. "As your uncle's child, you have slim chances of awakening," Leo condescendingly told me. "You should study. You seek wealth like commoners, just like your father." I silently processed his harsh words, feeling a mix of shock and distress. Then I turned, exclaiming in surprise. Leo confidently challenged me to a fight. He clenched his fists and began to manifest his magic power. My eyes glowed blue, a menacing aura surrounding me. "Is a mad dog growing up in the main house?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous. Leo was taken aback. "What's happening?" he questioned, gazing up in utter shock and confusion at the unexpected display of power. His eyes widened in extreme surprise, his face contorted in fear and disbelief. He then exclaimed in shock, "How can this be? All right, let's get into it. You guys ready? Because things are about to get real for me." I stood there, fully visible now, a smug smile on my face. Power radiated from me, a palpable force that even Leo couldn't ignore. He looked at me, questioning when my magic had awakened. "My own father doesn't even know," I told him, a hint of something more in my voice. Still radiating that raw power, I looked at Leo and simply stated, "We have a problem now." He just looked confused. I watched as he seemed to darken, his expression becoming menacing, as I delivered my chilling statement. "There's no room for two mad dogs in this house." I grinned, a truly menacing smile spreading across my face, my eyes glowing intensely as power practically surged from me. I smugly declared my intention to take a certain role, then instructed Leo to step aside. He looked distressed, clearly not expecting any of this. As the energy around me intensified, a silhouette of a horned figure, with glowing eyes and a menacing smile, materialized beside me. "It's time for a beating," I announced, my voice low and steady. But Leo, to his credit, stood firm. I watched as his fists clenched, power radiating from him now too. He was preparing for a fight. Amidst the fading intensity of my power display, Leo stood firm, blurting out something in shock. Meanwhile, while I was dealing with Leo, back in a lavish room, I later learned that Tails, Raphael, and Pale were observing something. "Karen has already awakened," one of them noted. Heinrich was there too, looking intently. He informed Tails, Raphael, and Pale that 3 knight captains had already confirmed my awakening. The group stood in that ornate room, and Tails acknowledged the news about me. Raphael Reston, the second young master, seemed to ponder it, wondering how someone like me could awaken magic without telling the main family. Raphael then confronted Pale directly, asking what he was plotting. Pale looked away, denying any knowledge and claiming he didn't know anything either. Tails Reston, the first young master, stepped between them. He told Raphael to stop his baseless speculation, explaining that Pale hadn't awakened his own magic, so he wouldn't have noticed my awakening. Meanwhile, Pale stood alone, lost deep in thought. Suddenly, a worried man in a vest burst through a doorway in alarm, telling Heinrich to come quickly. Heinrich turned to him, asking what was wrong. The vest man nervously addressed Raphael, who was standing there menacingly, initially looking on with surprise at whatever news was being delivered. Then, Raphael's face contorted in intense anger. His eyes glowed, his teeth gritted, and he let out a furious expression. I let out a startle, then saw Raphael looking at Leo, who was distressed next to a sofa. Raphael then extended a hand menacingly towards me, calling me insolent. I simply bowed to greet him. He clutched his face, aggressively confronting me. "What are you thinking?" he demanded. I just looked at him. Pale called out to his brother, and others around us reacted with surprise. I then explained my actions to Leo. It was because you insulted my father, I stated directly. Then I challenged Raphale. Would you have just stood by if your own father was insulted? After my question, Raphale became even more enraged. You're speaking nonsense, Raphale declared. The confrontation erupted into pure chaos. Pale told his brother to stop, but Raphale just rebuked him amidst the heated argument. Raphale then accused my poor upbringing as the cause of this whole conflict. Amidst all that commotion, Heinrich finally stepped in, restraining everyone to stop the fight. Phew, what a day, right? And that's just the beginning of my story. All right, let's get into it. I hear Heinrich's solemn announcement. Father, the lord of our family, will personally pass judgment on this whole situation. Suddenly, I'm released. My own father, Pale, forcefully takes me from Raphale, his voice sharp as he tells Raphale to let me go, reminding him of father's decree. Raphale just glares, clearly furious. My father kneels, his gaze full of worry as he asks if I'm all right. I look up at him, a little breathless from the struggle, and confirm, I'm fine, father. Tails says we'll all go together. Raphale just scoffs dismissively, but my father agrees, and I see Heinrich watching us intently. I agree, father, I tell him. It feels like ages since we've done this. We arrive at the Azure Sea Fortress, and immediately father asks, why did such a major incident occur right after we got here? My father, Pale, starts to address him about what happened. But father cuts him off, sternly saying, I wasn't asking you. His gaze fixes on me. I'll hear the answer from my son. He continues, I know you're not thoughtless. Tell me every detail about your behavior. I look at him, a slight challenge in my voice. Will I be heard out before I receive punishment? I need to understand his intent. He just listens from behind his desk, waiting. Leo insulted my father, I explain. Raphale, still fuming, interjects from behind me. Nonsense. Tell us the actual truth. Father's hand clenches into a fist, his expression turning to pure rage. Silence, he roars, silencing everyone. He glares at Raphale. How dare you raise your voice in my presence? Raphale immediately bows his head. My apologies, Lord Halo. Raphale recovers quickly. We should call for Leo to confirm the facts. Heinrich, is his treatment finished? Heinrich confirms, yes, Lord Raphale. His treatment is complete. I can bring him to the office now. Ignoring Raphale's suggestion for a moment, I decide to reveal a much bigger secret. I awakened my magic power 3 years ago. I offer a soft smile to father. His brow furrows. Why was this magic kept hidden, even from me until now? I can see him deep in thought, processing the fact that I, his son, awakened mana 3 years ago. I continue explaining my past. I only identified what my magic power was after reading a book. I go on, detailing what happened after I discovered my abilities. Father, still serious and questioning, prompts. And then, I give a mischievous smile, putting a hand behind my head. I just wanted to keep my magic power a secret. It was just fun having a secret, knowing none of the knights in my territory had any idea. Father's expression remains serious. Is that truly the entire explanation? I confidently affirm. Yes, that's the complete explanation. As Tails and Raphale stand stiffly nearby, I hear Heinrich announce, young Lord Leo is entering the grand room. I watch as Leo walks in, his mind clearly racing with a silent thought I can't hear. His face is bandaged, and his expression is etched with worry. Father's voice is stern as he questions Leo directly. Did you insult your uncle, as Karen reported? Leo watches him, clearly nervous. He reacts with distress, hesitating before offering a partial denial, his eyes darting between me and father. Alright, so picture this. I totally fake cried, my voice dripping with mock remorse as I apologized to my grandfather. You should have seen brother Leo. He looked utterly shocked, practically sputtering as he demanded to know why I was suddenly acting so pitiful. But I wasn't done. I sniffled dramatically, explaining that brother Leo had, in fact, insulted my father. Oh yes, he called him vulgar, obsessed with money, and guess what else? I went on, adding that he'd also called my father incompetent, arrogant, and someone with absolutely no right to the succession. And then, with a sigh, I finished, acknowledging my mistake in hitting brother Leo, despite all those terrible insults. Talk about laying it on thick, right? I saw brother Leo watching me, his face growing more worried and disbelieving with every word. He immediately started denying everything, claiming he hadn't said any of what I'd just reported. Oh, the drama. His face was contorted in pure distress, a sight to behold. My eyes. Oh, they glowed with a faint aura, and I locked my gaze onto Brother Leo, just to make sure he really felt it. Then, Grandfather Halo turned his piercing gaze on Leo, asking him intently if my report was true. And what do you know? He confirmed it. He admitted my report was true. Huh. I even saw Pale react with a gasp of surprise. Grandfather Halo simply acknowledged the information. Then he announced that with the awakening ceremony scheduled for tomorrow, our punishment, mine and Leo's, would be postponed until after it was complete. I knew outside, the grand castle was illuminated, a beacon under the full moon and starry night. With that, everyone was dismissed to rest, but not without a stern reminder to keep everything we'd heard in mind. Under a clear, star-filled night sky, a grand castle-like structure stood nestled within a dense forest. I moved through the dimly lit woods with a diverse group, some in dark robes, others clearly part of the Reston family. I moved forward, my eyes wide with surprise as I observed the hooded figures. It dawned on me. These were the elders of the Reston family. As we delved deeper into the moonlit forest, I noticed a faint blue glow emanating from some of them. Even in retirement, these elders were incredibly skilled, I realized. Further into the dark woods, I saw Tails, Halo's eldest son, and his daughter Leon. Raphael, the second son, stood with his own son Leo. Raphael's gaze was intense and focused. My own expression was thoughtful, concerned. This situation was far more important than I first thought, I realized, given the entire family's involvement. The whole family gathered now, deeper in the dark forest, encircling a central point, with the Reston elders around us. At the very heart of the gathering, a glowing, intricately carved stone rested on a platform. I pondered what it could be, until its blue glow illuminated me, and I realized, it's the Stone of Oath. Halo's voice cut through the quiet, solemn. The awakening ceremony will now begin, he declared. He explained how we'd pass through a rift, created by the Stone of Oath itself. Beyond that rift, a unique world would unfold. Guided by the Stone of Oath, a distinct world for each individual, he emphasized. I listened, thoughtful. Halo concluded his instructions. The ceremony will end only when I use a retrieved weapon to destroy the new world. I offered my grandfather a respectful smile, nodding my agreement. The ceremony began. Halo's intense blue eye stared, focused. In his left hand, he held a glowing pendant, energy emanating from it as he gave his approval to proceed. The pendant swirled, forming an upright, rune-like symbol. He stood before an ornate altar, surrounded by our group. Then a powerful column of light erupted from the altar, shooting high into the night sky, surrounded by swirling formations. Whoa! I exclaimed, watching in surprise. The surge of energy intensified, forming an intensely swirling portal. Halo looked at me, a defiant glint in his eye. Are you scared? He asked. Pale gently touched my shoulder, his voice soft. Are you truly okay? I looked up at him calmly. I gave him a reassuring smile. I'm okay, I told him. I'll return. My thoughts drifted to what Halo said. Finding a weapon beyond the rift, then using it to destroy this new world. I flashed a determined, confident smile. This challenge will be easy, I declared. Destroying things has always been my job, after all. Halo observed everything with an assessing gaze. Then he called out to me, his voice firm, urging me to overcome any fear I might have. All right, let's get into it. I looked back, a raw surge of power emanating around me, and I questioned if I could truly overcome my fear. I stood there, my back turned, completely surrounded by this intense, crackling energy. I knew they were watching me engage this digital entity. Then, suddenly, something made me gasp in pure surprise. My eyes widened with confusion as I looked around. Where was I? A glowing word, dungeon, was superimposed over the entrance of a burning castle, and I saw deceased figures scattered across the ground. Cautiously, I walked through the entrance, stepping carefully over the scattered bodies and debris. I continued through the hall, a mask of shock and disbelief etched onto my face. Why had this happened? Was I being shown memories of this place? A surge of anger rose within me. Was someone trying to make me feel guilty by showing me my dead comrades? Deceased knights lay sprawled on the stairs of the burning main palace, leading straight to the throne. My eyes were filled with distress. This world felt so cruel, so desolate. Then, a bright light shone from my side, illuminating my face, which must have shown my shock and profound turmoil. A thought flashed through my mind. The child of the blue wolves. Suddenly, a grand, dark chamber appeared before me, featuring a majestic archway that glowed intensely, casting eerie red reflections on the floor. An unknown voice echoed in the chamber, thinking about fulfilling an ancient covenant made with an ancestor. The glowing energy within the archway intensified, and I noticed the surrounding structure was ornate and imposing. My foot stepped onto a blood-splattered step, as that unseen voice from the chamber began to question my very identity. My expression must have been pure shock. Am I a demon? I questioned out loud. I stood cautiously amidst this fiery, desolate landscape, surrounded by fallen figures. The mysterious voice explained that the blood flowing in my veins couldn't be invaded by a mere low-level demon. It encouraged me to overcome my fear and find what I desired on the throne. I approached and pushed open the colossal doors. Tentatively, I stepped into the vast, newly opened red chamber. It's been a while, I thought. My gaze fixed on the distant throne. I thought I saw something there. I stood, gazing intently at that distant throne. The Emperor, he must have made a deal with a demon to protect this place, I surmised. My inner turmoil raged. My comrades died. But why? Because of something still unknown to me. I felt like I was treading on the very corpses of my comrades as an unseen voice called out to me. The child blessed by the cold North Sea, whose soul has been lost. I was surprised as an unseen voice, this time from the Blue Clan, welcomed my arrival. Then a powerful demonic sword, Ruin, was presented to me, its tip pointing upwards. The unseen voice declared, "It is your weapon." I powerfully held the demonic sword aloft, looking up with a mix of shock and recognition. I knew it immediately. This was my beloved demonic sword, Ruin, the one bestowed upon me by the Emperor. An unseen voice commanded me, "Infuse mana into the weapon." Shock and alarm shot through me. I knew then, with a chilling certainty, this demonic sword would devour my very soul. Before me stood the demonic sword Ruin. But its evil thoughts, I remembered, had already been extinguished by my grandfather's hand. Still, it dominated my sight. A voice explained that its current terrifying form was actually a distortion, a corruption created by a demon. Its dark energy spread out, chilling me, as that same unseen voice commanded me, the child, to awaken this weapon. In the shadows, an ornate armored man appeared. "Only Karen," he declared, "has awakened this weapon." He stood there, partially obscured by the darkness. I looked up at him, my gaze fixed on the sword. Can I touch it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My hand clenched at my side. Fear warred with a strange pull, an inner conflict raging within me. I worried, deeply. What if touching it meant returning to my past self, the one who took countless lives, blindly obeying the Emperor's brutal orders? The crucial moment of decision was here, right now. Then I saw myself, but transformed. Shirtless, bathed in a crimson light, my purple eyes blazing with a determined yet pained expression. An unseen voice echoed, urging me to overcome my fear. I looked down, my blonde hair catching the red glow, lost in deep reflection. Then, like a lightning bolt, a strong realization hit me. I looked forward, a contemplative expression now on my face, finally understanding what was truly happening here. My intense expression betrayed my surprise. Halo's unusual kindness, it was unexpected. A voice then spoke, revealing the awakening ceremony's true purpose. It went far beyond just obtaining a weapon. With newly awakened power radiating from my body, I strode confidently down a dimly lit path. My stride unwavering, I arrived at a grand, golden structure. An unknown voice declared, "This event is for the family heir, who has awakened a special power to overcome his fear." Then it added, "The next stage is ready." My hand firmly gripped the hilt of the dark weapon. Its pointed tip was surrounded by a subtle, red aura. I held the dark weapon forcefully in a ready stance, energy swirling around me, startled by the sudden surge. My own eye intensely glowed with a bright light, mystical energy swirling around me. I stood there, overwhelmed, my body vigorously emitting powerful energy, a blue aura now surrounding me. Was this it? Was this the azure clarity? I questioned aloud, the words escaping me in a rush. Behind me, the spiky black-white man stood with his back turned, observing a large sword enveloped in mystical energy. "That's Ruin's form," he recognized. Before us, the powerful Ruin's form sword stood tall, emanating immense power around its dark blade and ornate hilt. The powerful sword continued to emanate power. The spiky black-white man contemplated its unusual form, clearly wondering why it had appeared this way. I saw my silhouette, now a blue energy swordsman, holding a large ornate sword surrounded by ethereal wisps. A voice explained that this weapon once belonged to our ancestor Rael. The ornate sword remained prominently displayed. Then an unknown voice added, "The sword your grandfather took, that was also a progenitor's sword." All right, let's get into it. I gripped the blue energy sword, its power illuminating my determined face. An unknown voice started to explain why this sword, unlike my grandfather's, wasn't in the history books. My eyes shone, reflecting its raw power. The voice went on, saying this power was extremely different from anything my family had ever wielded. Suddenly, intense agony shot through me, and I groaned as an immense power surged, ripped through my body. I struggled to keep my grip on the sword, my mind reeling, questioning what this intense power even was. The voice commanded me to endure, telling me the sword's energy was engraving itself into my very being. Pain was etched on my face, but so was resolve. My eyes shone brightly, and I felt the mana energy surging within me had grown even more intense. I saw Cheris, looking thoughtful and completely amazed, considering the sword's incredible mana effect. Then, a mysterious voice affirmed the sheer power of the Azure mana. There I was, standing confidently in the Red Room, still holding the sword, and I had to know. "What's its real name?" I asked. I saw it then, the formidable dark sword. Ominous silhouettes of grotesque demons with glowing eyes surrounded it. This was a weapon that had beheaded countless demons and devoured their powers. I held the distinctive sword, my gaze focused, a wave of recognition washing over me as it emitted a powerful, resonant sound. Then the truth was revealed. Its true name is the execution sword guillotine. I stared forward, holding the dark, ornate weapon with its prominent blue gem. The execution sword guillotine, I acknowledged, letting the name settle in my mind. In that moment, I deduced the unseen speaker had to be the blue dragon, my family's ancient guardian. The voice explained that the sword's darkness resembled the deep, endless sea. And then it added that this weapon perfectly suited my destiny. I looked up, curiosity burning, and asked the unseen speaker, "Who are you? You are not yet worthy to know my true name." The unseen speaker's voice echoes around me. Then comes the challenge. Dominate the sea with your power and find me in the North Sea. I stand there, a contemplative expression on my face, silently processing the words, a slight bow of my head acknowledging the weight of it all. Holding my decorated sword, I ask, "How do I leave this mysterious location?" "You should already know how to leave," the voice replies, and then it clicks. A sharp exclamation escapes my lips as I grip my sword's hilt tightly, confirming my sudden understanding. "I've wanted to try this," I declare, my voice brimming with enthusiasm as I raise my sword. With a dramatic downward slash, I unleash a powerful wave, my still glowing sword leaving a circular motion trail in the air. As I complete my dynamic action, I see Tails wrap Hale and Halo observing a distressed Pale, who has his face covered. The crest collar man remains silent while I watch with crossed arms. "Don't worry too much, Fail," Halo tells him gently. Pale then apologizes to his father. "It must be painful to see a son take a new path," Halo states, his gaze intense, and I can almost feel his sympathetic thoughts about my difficult journey. "It was not easy," he adds, advising them all to compose themselves despite the difficulty. Pale looks up at his father. Suddenly, a large, ornate stone of oath pillar begins to glow, then fracture. I see Leo watching from behind as the cracks appear, spreading rapidly. The stone of oath continues its catastrophic breaking. I hear a speaker urgently alerting grandfather about its destruction. Tali looks intensely surprised and concerned, asking, "What is happening?" as Halo observes behind him. From the breaking stone of oath, a central ornate pedestal emits powerful energy, shattering the ground around it. Halo stands wide-eyed and shocked, bringing a hand to his face, asking, "What is happening?" Then, I'm standing firm on broken, debris-strewn ground, holding a large, glowing silver sword with intricate blue patterns. "What?" I express my surprise. I look around, disoriented, the desolate, starlit landscape unfamiliar yet familiar. Have I truly returned? I wonder. Where did the stone of oath disappear to? Halo looks on with a stern expression. With a powerful thrust, my large sword plunged deep into the ancient stone, shattering it into countless remnants. I stand amidst the fractured pieces of the stone of oath, my sword still clutched in my hand. A sound of surprise escapes my lips. Is the stone of oath broken? I ask, my voice echoing in the sudden silence as my family watches in stunned shock. My father, pale, reels back in intense shock. "What have you done?" he cries, clutching his head in distress. "You've broken the stone of oath." "Grandfather." I greet as he arrives, my father still distressed beside me. Grandfather Halo's expression is stern and intense. I hold my ornate sword, gazing at its intricate details. Halo's eyes widen in surprise as he studies the weapon in my hand, a flicker of thought in his gaze. "That intricate design," he murmurs, his voice laced with recognition. "It's the guillotine, Rael Reston's beheading sword. I know its history, passed down orally, kept secret from our family's official records." Halo wonders aloud why this weapon has suddenly appeared now. His face, close up, fills my vision. His wide blue eyes are a mixture of surprise and accusation as he turns to speak directly to me. His expression deepens, a grim realization dawning on him. He then asks if this means the time of the covenant is approaching. I hold the sword stoically as he asks me, "Are you not afraid of this weapon?" I grip the weapon firmly, remaining silent, considering his question. Halo stands authoritatively, looking directly at me. "No," I finally reply, my voice firm. He looks down, contemplating my answer. "I understand," he says quietly. He looks up, a pensive look in his eyes. With determined blue eyes, I recall a past event, a memory from long ago. Halo's voice breaks my thoughts, recalling the memory of our ancestors who failed to fulfill their covenant with the blue dragon, to annihilate the demons crossing from the world's end. I remember the ethereal blue landscape, a journey through a mystical realm. "The Stone of Oath was left as proof," Halo explains, "a vow to the future. The Stone of Oath, they awaited the one who would carry out the covenant. Was I that successor? I am Halo Reston," he declares, his voice ringing with authority. He turns to the observing group, continuing his ceremonial address. "I declare Karen, son of Pale Reston, a rightful member of the Azure Sea Fortress," he announces, "and worthy of inheriting the Spirit Sea style." His words draw gasps of surprise from the crowd. I see Raffles' intense disapproval. "A young person like me shouldn't receive the Spirit Sea style," I hear him think. A heavy silence falls over the group after his declaration. Tails looks at my sword, pondering the name, the guillotine. "Karen, are you hurt?" Pale asks, his voice soft with concern. "No, I'm not hurt," I assure him. Tails looks contemplative, realizing he doesn't know every family weapon. "I've never heard of that particular sword," I hear him think. Then another thought surfaces in his mind. "I feel a deep sense of unease just looking at it," he reflects. And finally, a concluding thought. Pale's son is now walking a path his father never took. Pale gently places his hand on my head, a gesture of quiet kindness. "I will not let Pale's son sway the matter of succession," Halo declares, his voice firm, leaving no room for argument. "All right, so things are getting intense." I see Halo turn to the cloaked figures. "The awakening ceremony is over," he states. "Let's return." But then, I hear Rap Hale urgently call out to his brother. He demands, "Tails, will you simply stand by and watch?" Tails, looking serious, tells Rap Hale they'll have to speak privately soon, and Rap Hale looks just as serious. Rap Hale accepts, agreeing to a private discussion, then mutters to himself, wondering if even a very greedy person is feeling a crisis now. He stares intently at his brother, then drops a bombshell. "Do you know about a sword called the guillotine?" Tails reacts with concern, almost disbelief. "It's impossible," he declares. Rap Hale speaks with such intense conviction, telling his brother, "You cannot comprehend." Still agitated, he then questions, "How could anyone understand the situation with Pale's son?" But Tails cuts him off. "What matters now?" A heavy moment lingers between them. "Is not the time for us to fight among ourselves," he finishes. My father leads me away. I clutch the sword tightly in my hand as we walk, the whole group silent around us. He asks me, "Are you fine being left alone?" "Yes," I reply. Heinrich then asks my father, "Is there any place safer than the Azure Sea Fortress?" My father looks thoughtful, concerned. He agrees, "Yes, that's true," but I can still see the worry on his face. He continues, serious, acknowledging the fortress is safe from outside threats, but he's clearly worried about other issues. I realize he's deeply worried about threats from within. My father gently caresses my head. I look up at him, a soft, content smile spreading across my face. I truly believe that as long as my father is here, my brothers won't dare to act rashly. Heinrich addresses my father as third young master. and my father responds with an inquisitive hum. Heinrich then tells him that Lady Sabina will conduct the spirit sea-style inheritance. My father's face immediately lights up with joyful recognition. "Aunt!" he exclaims. He seems even more at ease now, knowing his aunt will oversee my inheritance. I feel a pensive calm wash over me. With Sabina's involvement, I'm sure this will turn out well. I know Sabina Reston is Halo's sister, a master as skilled as him. I wonder if she was once known as the White Wolf. The blue trim dress woman smiles warmly, and my father tells me that my aunt always doted on her. He warns me not to show any disrespect to my aunt. "I'll do my best, father," I promise him. Heinrich then shares a message from the head of the family. My father asks if it's from his father. Heinrich confirms, continuing the message. "A residence in the Azure Sea Fortress will be prepared for us to visit anytime." My father reacts with a dramatically surprised, wide-eyed expression. I can see the sudden shock hit him. He looks down thoughtfully, processing this unexpected news from his father. He thanks Heinrich, saying he can now leave without worry. "It's nothing," Heinrich replies. My father places his hand on my head once more. "Take care, Karen," he says. "If you ever need help, I'll be there." The train sped through the town, the rhythm of its wheels a steady beat. Heinrich looked back over his shoulder at me. "May I offer some advice?" he asked. I looked at him with an eager smile. "I'm ready to hear it," I said, my voice bright. Heinrich's expression turned stern. "Lady Sabina dislikes being called grandmother the most," he warned. He continued, "It's also best to avoid using Aunt Grandmother to." I thanked him, promising, "I'll remember that." But internally, I couldn't help but wonder, what's wrong with calling a grandmother? Soon we arrived. Before us stood a formidable, fortified stone wall and a massive gate, guarded by several knights. Heinrich gestured, explaining, "Lady Sabina is waiting inside. Only direct family descendants may enter this cultivation chamber in the Azure Sea Forest." Then he added, "Leo is also here." My hands rubbed together excitedly, a mischievous grin spreading across my face. Leo. It seemed the second young master had specially requested Lady Sabina. "I'll go," I declared. I waved goodbye to the group of staff and walked away. Heinrich quietly observed my departure, then adjusted his monocle with a faint smile. I didn't hear what he said, but I imagine he thought, things will get lively again after a long time. I approached a sturdy, ornate wooden door, engulfed in an intense, swirling aura of magical energy. I looked upwards, my expression serious, as I sensed immense magic power emanating from within. I hesitated before the large double doors for a moment, and then an unseen individual questioned my delay in entering. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the large wooden door. I stepped inside and formally greeted those within, introducing myself. "I am Karen Reston, son of Pale." My eyes widened in shock. Then, Sabin revealed herself, asking what was happening with suspicion. She asked if her appearance surprised me, identifying me as Karen Reston, son of Pale. Lady Sabina sat there regally, a subtle, confident expression on her face, her blue eyes gazing intently. She spoke, remarking on me being Pale's son and how quickly time passes. I was so surprised, wondering if she had reconstructed her body with magic power. No, I quickly rejected the idea. That's ridiculous, impossible. My thoughts intensified. This had to be the realm of an 8-star knight. All right, let's dive into my story from my perspective. I stood there, my back to Lady Sabina, gazing at the open doorway, lost in thought. Her voice cut through the silence, sharp and clear. "Why are you just standing there, Karen? Quickly, sit in a cross-legged position." I turned startled and moved to obey. "Sit next to Leo," she instructed. I knelt beside him, a slight smile on my face. "Brother," I acknowledged him. He reacted with clear surprise, his eyes wide. I leaned in, my enthusiasm bubbling over. "We'll be meeting often," I told him, "so we should definitely get along." He gave a hesitant, almost nervous reply, but I didn't mind. Lady Sabina leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful expression on her face. "The White Wolf, huh?" she mused, her voice tinged with surprise. "I'm quite surprised to hear that. The name caught me completely off guard." The White Wolf," I stammered, unable to finish my sentence. She continued, "I have quite an interest in history, you see. I read it in a book once. You really are an interesting kid, just like your older brother said. But what about my grandfather?" I blurted out, needing to know. "What did he say about me?" "That is what he said," she replied, her eyes studying me intently. And seeing you now, I understand exactly why that comment was made. I watched her waiting. She seemed to be pondering my grandfather Halo's words, almost as if she saw me as someone destined to navigate a vast, unknown ocean. She spoke aloud. Halo believes I should guide you, so that one day, you might rule that very sea. He told me I must become your lighthouse, she revealed, and then affirmed, and I will strive to be that guiding light for you. She looked at me even more intently, and I felt a strange sense of her measuring me. Even after such a brief moment, she declared, I can clearly tell your potential is immense. It's rough and endlessly vast. I didn't fully grasp it, but she was describing my potential, seeing it like a vast, open sea, serene under a blue sky with wispy clouds, yet untamed, with powerful waves surging across the horizon and distant birds soaring above. As she spoke of me possessing the potential to one day rule that great sea, I could feel my eyes glowing with an intense, internal light. She seemed genuinely amazed. I can hardly believe I've met such an interesting child at my age, she murmured, almost to herself. This encounter might just bring some joy for a while. Then, Lady Sabina stood up decisively. We will now begin, she declared, her voice firm. This cross-legged position is the most basic foundation for mana training. She explained that once we got past the introductory stage, mana training wouldn't always require sitting like this. Then, right before my eyes, Lady Sabina powerfully demonstrated a mana ability, her movements graceful and potent. This is how it's done, she said, a visible shimmer around her. Both Leo and I reacted with complete shock, our mouths agape, barely able to contain our awe. I looked intently forward, enveloped by a shimmering aura of pure energy. I instantly recognized it. This was the legendary Azure Mana. Lady Sabina then confidently explained, the sea domination technique is a method to literally rule the sea. Azure Mana allows one to create and operate oceans within their own body. She elaborated further. Operating more oceans leads to greater strength. 8 oceans signify an 8-star level. And when those 8 oceans are operated as one giant sea, that represents the 9-star level. Only 3 people across the entire continent have ever reached this level, she continued. And within the Empire, only one has managed to achieve it. A name sprang to my lips, an undeniable truth. Halo, I exclaimed. Lady Sabina looked down, her face serious and contemplative as she declared, I intend to catch up to Halo in this life. I was surprised. She has a strong desire for power, I thought, a revelation dawning on me. Then, a coy smile crossed Lady Sabina's face as she looked at me. I could almost hear her thinking, this child is intriguing, one I'll enjoy training. So she instructed us. First, let mana flow through the passages opened by the awakening ritual. Leo and I focused intensely as powerful energy surged around us. Remember, I told myself the power of the sea is to be accepted, not controlled. I thought of powerful waves of energy, my eyes tightly closed in concentration. Chaotic, untamed waves of power surged around me. My control was still rough, but I pushed through. Then, I meditated intensely, energy emanating from my body. My heart began to glow, and the true awakening started right from its core. From behind me, I could sense Lady Sabina observing us. I didn't need to see her face to know she was visibly surprised by the power radiating from both Leo and me. I heard her express surprise. Such powerful mana from a kid who just finished the awakening ritual. I knew I was intensely radiating power, sweat beading on my brow. I could almost hear her thinking, noticing how even Leo, who'd learned the sea domination technique 2 years ago, was only just beginning to aim for the 2-star level. She watched me intently, realizing I was carving my own mana passages, without any of her direct teaching. I grimaced in agony. Immense pain surged through me, my body feeling like it was being torn apart. I clenched my jaw, struggling with the intense energy, a pained sound escaping my lips. Then, I briefly stopped my mana training, my back still turned to Lady Sabina. I could feel her surprise, her silent question wondering if I had ceased due to strain. She observed me, realizing I could even control my training pace. The full implication of my ability to self-regulate seemed to surprise her. On the other side, Leo collapsed onto his hands and knees on the floor, overcome by the training's strain as the energy around him faded. Lady Sabina quickly turned her head and called out urgently, Leo. She quickly knelt beside him, telling him, Don't force your mana. Leo just watched her calmly and apologized. Lady Sabina's expression turned thoughtful, tinged with regret. She must have realized she'd overlooked the others, focusing too much on me. Even after awakening their mana, I could almost hear her thinking, they are still just children. I could tell she thought she, as an adult, was there to prevent them from harming themselves with childish recklessness. I, on the other hand, looked scornfully at Leo, dismissing his weakness entirely. Then she shifted her focus back to me, clearly thinking about how different I was compared to the other children. She accurately grasped my own limits, noticing that I stopped training myself precisely to avoid straining my body. She observed that I had the composure to control myself, despite my burning desire for strength. Lady Sabina, perhaps wondering if I needed guidance, called me over. She looked directly at me, declaring a 3-year window, during which she'd guarantee my safety. Her instruction was clear. I had to build my strength for the next 3 years. I looked up, a pensive expression likely on my face, and confirmed my understanding to her. Later, as I walked into the training ground, I saw several figures training with swords in the paved courtyard. The air was filled with the metallic clang of blades as they practiced, a familiar sound of struggle and growth. Trainees continued their sword practice. One's blade caught mid-swing, as a stern voice cut through the air. "Swing like it's a real battle." Zeras criticized their technique, his words sharp. Then, his gaze flickered, and I saw him notice Leo and me as we walked further into the training ground. Beside me, Leo leaned in, asking, "You planning on using that sword for training, too?" I shot back. "You got a problem with it?" I passionately explained. "I'm using my grandfather's scabbard because people tend to find my sword's aura a bit menacing." I then challenged him. "You dislike it?" Leo quickly denied it. No, I don't dislike it." Just then, Zeras approached us, bowing respectfully. "Welcome, Lord Karen, Lord Leo," he said, his voice deep. I immediately realized this was him, the very person we'd been told about, the one who had taught them all. He then formally introduced himself. "I am Zeras Winterguard, Knight Commander of the Sea Wolf Knights. From this day forward, I will be overseeing Lord Karen's sword training." He then invited us. "You may address me as Sir Zeras." I politely greeted him back. Just by looking at him, I could tell he was an 8-star master. The aura, the presence, it was undeniable. But then Zeras sternly told us he wouldn't address us with our noble titles until we were formally acknowledged by the Sea Wolf Knights. I calmly told him not to worry. "It's actually more comfortable this way," I explained. "I'm not exactly used to the title of grandson of the Duke anyway." I then declared, "I know the Reston family tradition is to earn respect through skill." Zeras, much like Leo, usually displayed displeasure at such talk, and I could see he knew exactly what I meant. Beside me, Leo looked surprised, wondering why he was suddenly being looked at. I saw Zeras' expression shift. He seemed to ponder deeply, as if wondering if a truly capable successor had finally arrived. But then, my eyes began to glow, and a malevolent grin spread across my face. I gripped my formidable sword tighter, feeling its power surge, and declared my future dominance. Both Zeras and Leo were startled by my sudden display of raw power, their eyes wide. Zeras' face, I noticed, looked distressed. He probably realized that an even worse, more formidable adversary had just appeared before him. In that expansive castle courtyard, usually bustling with combat training, a new kind of intensity now simmered. I could almost hear Zeras thinking, "This one's a bigger scoundrel than Lord Leo." 3 years. 3 whole years had passed since, and here I am, standing quietly in Azure Sea Fortress, just listening. I see Halo, my granduncle, taking a large, satisfying gulp of liquor from his glass, ice clinking. Nearby, Lady Sabina holds her own drink, her voice clear as she praises Zeras' brother's liquor, calling it the absolute best. I hear Halo tell her, a hint of annoyance in his voice, to stop stealing his liquor. Lady Sabina looks indignant at his remark. "I spent 3 years," she reminds him, "teaching your grandnephew at your request." Halo considers this, a thoughtful look on his face. 3 years, he acknowledges, the words hanging in the air. Then, his gaze turns to her, and he asks for her impressions of me. I see her surprised expression as she pauses, clearly weighing her words. "He's a monster," Lady Sabina states plainly. A sharp defensiveness flares in Halo. "Don't call my grandson a monster, blue energy woman," he warns her. Zeras, standing close by, clears his throat, interjecting, "Even the word genius could be an insult to the boy." Halo turns to him. "Do you share the same thought?" Zeras looks genuinely surprised by the question. With a serious expression, Zeras offers his detailed opinion, explaining he's observed me for 3 years. He agrees with Lady Sabina. I am, indeed, a monster. He details my exceptional physical abilities, my talent, my unwavering attitude, and will towards training, my sheer guts. He believes I'm superior even to the first Grand Heir, a known genius. Halo raises an eyebrow. You mean compared to Hugo, the firstborn of the Tails family? He clarifies. He then adds, Karen's talent is even greater than Hugo's, who is considered the best in the Empire. Zeres confirms it, no hesitation in his voice. Lady Sabina looks concerned. This might cause trouble for the family if not handled carefully, she says, turning to her brother. Halo questions what she's discussing. Her expression turns serious. She warns about my influence on the line of succession and what I would mean for her listeners' sons. Halo's voice is sharp. Are you suggesting my sons would threaten their own nephew? Lady Sabina presses on. What would happen if Karen's outstanding talent became known throughout the Empire? She emphasizes that my talent would clearly influence the line of succession and future events. I see Halo look down, a troubled expression on his face, as Lady Sabina subtly observes him. Is our family truly finished now that the Stone of Oaths has been broken? She asks, explaining that the number of magical beasts crossing from beyond the North Sea has sharply increased. But Halo dismisses her words as absurd, his gaze resolute as he looks forward. The one who broke the stone will raise a new one, just like our founding ancestor, he declares, a prophecy in his voice. Lady Sabina listens intently, a questioning sound escaping her. Is the prophecy only for the family head? She asks. Halo confirms it, adding that the time of the covenant is near. She looks thoughtfully to the side, a realization dawning on her. The youngest will bear a heavy responsibility, she murmurs. They call me the young mad dog of Azure Sea Fortress, a reputation I carry within these vibrant walls, under the shining sun, near our grand, ornate home. Right now I'm sparring. I watch Hans, his expression fierce, as he vigorously unleashes a powerful downward swing with his wooden sword. My own wooden sword connects, striking Hans. He reels back, wincing, a pained sound escaping him. Reeling from my blow, Hans raises a hand. Stop, Lord Karen. I admit defeat, he says. I feel a wave of exasperation wash over me. You twisted your sword path and took the hit. I scold him. I explain to him. The Harang sword is useless if overpowered. It demands strength to be met with strength. I tell him. I'd press on even if a bone were to break. A grown adult shouldn't be so weak. Hans looks surprised. You're probably the only one who'd criticize my strength, Lord Karen, he says, adding. I'm currently injured, you know, but I can't hold back. You've got balloon muscles, I passionately declare. Hans looks amused. I've never heard such a description of my muscles before, he comments. I'm just being honest. I affirm, feeling confident in my assessment. Then Hans admits, facing you without magic is overwhelming for me now. He laments, my strength wasn't this bad last year. I get a thoughtful expression. I might be deployed on a mission soon, I suggest. Have you overheard something? I ask him. Hans calmly explains. Zeres decides the mission deployment time, not the family head. Hans states, you might be sent to the granary region due to frequent magical beast appearances. That's it. I turn and announce to Leo. We're being deployed on a mission. Leo looks annoyed, clearly thinking he doesn't want to be deployed on the same mission as me. His trainer tells him to focus on their sparring match. Even as he spars, Leo's still thinking about the mission, hoping that completing it well will please his parents. The frosty medieval city glowed under a massive full moon, the snow crunching softly as torch-bearing guards patrolled the cobblestone streets. Their long shadows danced eerily, but I was hidden, peeking out from behind a burning brazier, observing their movements. A sly grin spread across my face as I clutched a dark bottle. Tampering with Zeres's collection was always a thrill, and despite this young body, I still remembered the taste of good liquor. Suddenly, 2 men arrived, and I felt a strange familiarity. Baron Rohan was earnestly discussing Duke Reston's urgent absence, but the bald man explained that the Duke had gone to the capital. Hey! I called out, making them both turn. The bald man greeted me. Young Master Karen. Why are you out so late? I asked, my gaze sweeping over them. He then introduced Baron Rohan of House Belis, explaining that they had an urgent request concerning Chonghaeziong. I acknowledged this with a nod. I could see Baron Rohan's eyes widen slightly, a thoughtful look on his face, as he processed that I was the son of the third prince, the one pushed out of succession, but that I had awakened to magic and was now training at the main house, unlike my father. "It is an honor to meet you, young Master Karen," he finally stated, formally introducing himself. "All right, I'll hear you out," I decided. But before he could start, I suggested, "You should go to the Knight Commander instead." The bald man looked surprised, while Baron Rohan's gaze lingered on the liquor bottle in my hand, probably wondering if it was appropriate for a child like me to be carrying it. "If a visitor arrives in person, it means the situation is truly urgent," I explained. "A noble should properly receive such a visitor." The bald man looked down, a thoughtful expression on his face, understanding my suggestion. "I will inform Sir Zeras," he confirmed. "Good," I replied, confirming the plan. Baron Rohan was still deeply considering my political judgment, despite clearly finding the liquor bottle troubling. "Shall we go?" I prompted him. He glanced at the bottle again, no doubt wondering about the Reston family's alcohol customs and if they permitted drinking at such a young age. We soon arrived at a grand, half-timbered house, its warm lights a beacon in the snowy night. Inside a dimly lit study, I quickly cut to the chase. "So, the problem is a bandit group in the eastern mountains, right?" "Indeed, young master," Baron Rohan confirmed. "And because of these bandits, drugs are circulating and commoners are being sold as slaves." I pressed, my voice low. The Baron's face tightened. "Yes, young master. Belis Barony is a poor land, and our land has lacked a proper military for an entire year. It makes it extremely difficult to respond to these problems." He paused, a pained look in his eyes. "My father, unable to endure the situation any longer, led our small force in an attack against them. The battle cost us dearly, many were lost, and my father was left gravely wounded and bedridden." He finished, his voice heavy with self-reproach. "This is all my incompetence. I have brought suffering to both my father and our people." After hearing him, I aggressively slammed the liquor bottle down, seeing the Baron flinch in surprise. I passionately declared that those who caused such suffering deserved violent retribution. But I looked intently, deep in thought, processing everything. Something didn't quite add up. I found it unusual that mere bandits could stand up to a regular army, given their weak military power. So, I suggested the bandits might actually be deserters from the Southern Kingdom's war. I thoughtfully considered this possibility, feeling a strong hunch. I understood that with the Imperial Army focused on the Southern War, public order issues in the North were a natural consequence. I assessed that the deserter theory was the most plausible, and the Baron expressed his agreement, nodding along. But then, with a wink, I offered a drink to the Baron, suggesting it would lighten the mood. He thoughtfully accepted. As the liquor poured into his glass, I explained that the Belis Barony bordered my father's territory. This was a situation I simply couldn't overlook from my position. So, I offered to personally go and help, holding my own drink. The Baron thanked me for my offer, though I could see him wondering if he should really drink liquor given by a child. Then I revealed the liquor was from Sir Zeras' collection and asked for it to be kept a secret, reminding the Baron of our agreement about my liquor stash. He clarified, "This liquor belongs to Sir Zeras, the commander of the Haerang Knights?" Surprisingly, Zeras suddenly arrived in the room and immediately scolded me for touching his liquor, startling both of us. But Zeras quickly apologized for his discourtesy to me, and the Baron reassured him, saying I couldn't have known better. Zeras then asked the Baron about the bandits troubling his barony, and the Baron confirmed his worries. The Baron earnestly requested the Haerang Knights' direct help, explaining that this was precisely why he'd come to Chonghai Castle. Zeras began to respond. But then, Zeras scolded me again, declaring that alcohol wasn't good for my age. I looked startled, sloshing my drink slightly. Zeras then turned his head and apologized to me for the unsightly scene. But the Baron held up a hand to dismiss his apology, stating it was fine. Zeras welcomed the Baron, assuring him that Chonghai Castle wouldn't ignore an old companion's hardship. The Baron showed his gratitude, calling the news welcome. Zeras assured the Baron that troops would soon be dispatched to Belis Barony. The Baron gratefully expressed his thanks, gesturing with relief that he could now bring good news to his people. But then, I asked Sir Zeras to let me go. Zeras immediately objected, expressing concern about the enemy's strength, seeing them as a trained group potentially hiding experts. Zeras, his expression stern, acknowledged the strides I'd made. My magic hitting 4-star, my Haerang sword style advancing to its 4th form in just 3 years. But he quickly reminded me that real battle was a different beast altogether. I, calm and thoughtful, countered that overprotection wouldn't do us any good. Send me west, I suggested. A visible danger is always better than one unseen. But Zeres emphatically declared he wouldn't allow me to risk fighting unknown enemies, unknown in size, strength, and origin. Is that so? I calmly asked. A sly smirk then crept onto my face. I confidently addressed Zeres, proposing an offer I was sure they couldn't refuse. Zeres and Baron reacted with visible shock and confusion. One of them even questioned what I'd just said. Leo, in stunned disbelief, gazed forward muttering, "Why?" I leaned excitedly towards him. "It's thrilling," I declared. "This is our first mission." Zeres's expression turned serious and astute. He realized they'd been deceived. He critically observed us, then it dawned on him. Lady Sabina had been put forward. Thoughtfully, he considered that a reliable guardian would now accompany us. Lady Sabina even shared that she, too, was excited about her first mission. Zeres was deep in thought, believing that accepting Leo's condition meant they were satisfied with our training results. Baron, on the other side, intently observed Lady Sabina's extraordinary power that was now accompanying us. He questioned if Leo and I were truly sufficient. I expressed my excitement, but Leo remained silent. Baron worried about the Duke of Halo's grandsons, fearing their house would be held responsible if we were seriously hurt. But then, Zeres confidently stated that Baron's fears wouldn't come true. Baron addressed him as Sir Zeres. Zeres reassured him that Leo and I would be safe with Lady Sabina and Baron. But Lady Sabina then called out to Zeres. She stated she wouldn't intervene unless Leo and I faced mortal danger. Hearing that, Leo and Baron looked equally worried. Zeres expressed concern about us, the young dukes. But Lady Sabina countered that he knew it was about more than that. "Indeed," I remarked. "Lady Sabina is as bold as they say." Lady Sabina stated there was a reason she couldn't step out to the front. So, Zeres respectfully acknowledged her decision. On the busy train station platform, Lady Sabina announced that time had run out. Leo looked down intently at the distressed, recoiling individual who made a pained sound. Lady Sabina affectionately embraced Leo, reassuring him that feeling nervous was natural, even as he protested, clearly flustered. I watched as she gazed forward with a gentle smile, telling Leo to see this mission as his chance to prove 3 years of hard work and to be proudly recognized as a blue wolf. Leo's eyes widened when he heard her, clearly processing the idea of finally becoming a blue wolf. He turned slightly, his back mostly to me, and firmly declared his readiness. But I just had to question him. "Do you always need to be pushed?" I asked. Leo, predictably, defensively snapped back, "Be quiet." Inside the richly decorated train car, I playfully smiled at Leo. "So, where's our designated spot?" I asked, my suspicions internally confirmed. Leo remained silent, lost in his own thoughts. As for me, I intently considered that I would eventually need to prove myself. Then, a formal announcement echoed through the car. The magic train is now departing Chonghai Castle, bound for Belis Barony. The sleek, golden-accented magic train rumbled to life, beginning its powerful journey as I still considered everything. I watched as the train sped along a vibrant green track, rapidly approaching a grand castle city I could see in the distance. As we hurtled towards the city, the ground outside blurred past. I was honestly surprised by how quickly our destination was approaching. The magic train ascended a snowy mountain path, carving its way through dense pine forests. Suddenly, I heard a surprised gasp about confidential information. From inside the luxurious train car, Lady Sabina explained that her presence in Chonghaesong was classified. She added that if her presence became known, the bandits would vanish without a trace. Lady Sabina then questioned if we also wanted the bandits to vanish. Baron agreed, addressing her as White Empress. Baron expressed deep concern, asking if it was acceptable to entrust the mission to only 2 children. I could sense his internal question about whether this was truly my first mission. Meanwhile, I watched Leo stand silently, lost in thought, as Baron observed him, clearly thinking someone worried too much. Leo wore a serious expression. Suddenly, Leo's mother sternly confronted him, questioning his closeness with me. She then asked if he had forgotten what happened 3 years ago, and I watched him look away uncomfortably. She reminded Leo that I was his rival, questioning how he could joke with someone who had disgraced him and his father 3 years prior. She looked up slightly with a firm expression, intensely demanding a response from him and chastising him for having no drive. Leo looked down with a conflicted expression, apologizing to his mother and clarifying that he and I were not rivals. His mother exclaimed in strong disbelief at his words. Leo then stated that I reached the 4th star at 13, a feat even brother Hugo, a genius, only achieved at 14, and he himself only reached 3 stars at 15. He asked her if she understood the significant difference. Leo looked down in thought, explaining that I might be his goal, but his mother emphatically declared that I could never be his rival. His mother, appearing frustrated, strongly told Leo to overcome his inferiority complex, but Leo assertively told her that his feelings were not an inferiority complex. He then passionately stated that my existence was the driving force for him to work harder and move forward. She then faced away, her breath visible in the cold air, and expressed her exasperation with him, stating he was staring at the tree but not seeing the forest. But Leo listened intently, a serious expression on his face. Just then, Lady Sabina called out Leo's name, demanding his full attention. Leo, visibly startled, quickly responded to her. She then calmly asked him if he found it difficult to overcome his nervousness. Leo, looking anxious, admitted his nervousness, but Lady Sabina, standing calmly beside him, reassured him that it was understandable for a first mission. She then looked forward and asked him if he could bring himself to cut someone down. Then, she claimed that I was the type to betray others to save myself. I reacted with a questioning sound. Lady Sabina gently reminds Leo not to doubt himself. She knows better than anyone how hard he's worked these past 3 years. Then she clarifies if she was the one who trained him, and Leo affirms it. Lady Sabina stands, declaring that from now on, we'll address each other as master and disciple. Leo agrees, but Baron asks where she's going. I watch as Lady Sabina walks towards the window, planning to leave this moving train. She explains she'll move out first to avoid spreading word, but Baron just stares, probably thinking about the moving train part. Lady Sabina confidently looks back at Baron, telling him to call her by her new name. He's shocked, but I can't help but watch with amusement. My master's boldness never ceases to amaze me. She assures him her grandnephews will watch from nearby, telling us not to worry. Baron looks pretty worried, though. Suddenly, Lady Sabina violently lunges forward. Baron is shocked, recoiling with raised hands, shouting her name. He flinches back further, disbelief and fear on his face, calling out her name again in pure shock. I just watch, an unsettling smile probably on my own face. Leo and Baron both react with extreme shock, wide-eyed and distressed. Baron's probably wondering what the heck just happened. Our ornate train car speeds through a stark, snowy mountain landscape. I can almost hear Baron wondering why everyone in House Reston acts like this. Then, I hear an elderly man cough painfully. Baron's father, looking quite weak, explains that his poor health forces him to receive us, the young wolves of House Reston, while sitting. I dismiss his apology, my focus on his condition. How are your lord's wounds? I ask. He tells me the danger has passed, thanking me for my concern. Then he asks if I remember meeting his father 10 years ago. He compliments my growth, saying my lord must be proud. I manage a slight smile. Etiquette makes me uncomfortable, I admit. But then, Baron's father offers to call me, young Lord Karen, a more casual address. I accept. That would indeed put me more at ease, I confirm. He praises me for reaching the 4th star of the Zihi style at such a young age, especially for my first mission. I affirm my achievement, but can't help but add, my cousin Leo is still at 3 stars. Baron's father chuckles. He can't believe the main family thinks so highly of us to dispatch us here. Leo, next to me, has a wide-eyed look of surprise. The old man looks thoughtful, hesitating to assign such a dangerous task to us, 2 promising young men. But then, Leo confidently addresses him, acknowledging his concern. Failing our mission would disgrace the Blue Wolves' honor, he declares, and we have no intention of doing so. He turns to me, seeking my agreement. I can see the surprise on Leo's face, but I firmly reassert our unwavering commitment to the mission. Baron's father chuckled, a warmth in his voice as he thanked them for their words, even as I saw young Baron express concern for his well-being. Looking at his face, I knew he needed rest, so I suggested we leave, but he just looked at me, saying he was entrusting everything to me. Young Baron then told his father that a guide was already prepared for us to follow, and I confidently agreed, ready for the instructions. The environment rapidly shifted as we began our journey. The landscape transformed into a cold, challenging world of snow-capped mountains and dense pine forests. "Tired already, Karen?" Leo called out, his voice cutting through the cold. I ignored him, focused on the journey. Then he leaned in. "Can we truly trust this herbalist?" I turned my gaze to him. What's that remark supposed to mean? He kept voicing his suspicions, convinced even a skilled guide could be allied with bandits. I couldn't help but smirk. "Oh, so you're finally using that brain of yours?" I firmly agreed with his implication. The guide was definitely part of the bandit crew. "How do you know that so quickly?" Leo asked, surprised. "Remember my conversation with the young Baron when we first arrived at the station?" I began. I asked young Baron Rohan how he planned to track down the bandit hideout. He had explained they'd have to use a traitor from within the domain. "A traitor, you say?" I repeated, the idea clicking. Leo suddenly had a thought, muttering, "That's an excellent method." I concluded my explanation of the plan, and Leo gestured in frustration. "Why didn't you share this information with me?" he demanded. I just explained that I'd been nervous all day. But then, Leo looked down worriedly, contemplating the young Baron's cunning decision to use a traitor. I confirmed his suspicion. "The lack of punishment for the traitor proves the Baron's intention all along," I said. I then added another deduction. Our enemies must be in a desperate situation. This confirmed it. We were the bait. A perfect setup for noble sons traveling through the barony. I acknowledged the dangerous situation, realizing we were about to be ambushed. We were ready to be caught. Then, a sudden, powerful event marked the start of the ambush. Just as I expected, I was instantly surrounded by a diverse group of attackers in the snowy woods. I saw their leader smile sinisterly, congratulating someone named Sven on their success, and mentioning he'd added more to the plan for us, the noble targets. Sven just gratefully thanked him. But then, one of the kidnappers pointed at us, warning his boss. "Sir, these noble targets might not surrender easily." A determined smirk crossed my face. "These attackers are vermin," I declared. My sword was right there behind me, and I was ready. The air in Bellis Barony was thick with the sounds of coughing, a persistent, unsettling hack. I wasn't there, but I imagined young Rohan reaching out to his father, a worried look on his face, asking if he was all right. His father would assure him, "I'm fine, son." Rohan, ever the caring one, would offer him water, which his father would gratefully accept. I picture Rohan watching his father, a somber expression on his own face, as his dad continued to look unwell and burdened. Then Rohan would ask, his voice quiet, if we, the two young dukes, would be all right. His father, a thoughtful man, would reflect on the situation. He'd comment on the decision to dispatch us to our domain without proper information on the bandits. But then he'd continue, stating that the very lack of information proved Blue Sea Castle was confident in our abilities. And that's when my name would come up. He'd say I reminded him of young Duke Halo, noting my confident demeanor, my relaxed, magnanimous attitude. He'd conclude it was all right to have expectations for us. Rohan would agree. But while they were talking, I was already in the thick of it. The scene shifts abruptly from that quiet conversation to a desolate, snow-covered landscape. And let me tell you, it wasn't pristine white anymore. It was covered in spatters and streaks of fresh, crimson blood. The sounds of impact and rapid movement were deafening. I was a blur of motion, my sword a flashing arc of steel. I attacked furiously, a frenzy of strikes, sending blood splattering everywhere. My glowing blue eyes were locked onto my target, a fierce, unwavering determination burning within them. Blood, so much blood, splattered around me. I was fiercely engaged, fighting multiple enemies in a chaotic close-quarters battle. Nearby, I could see Leo watching, his face a mixture of shock and terror. One severely injured, defeated man, lying amidst the blood-splattered ground. Another powerful attack, my blade a streak of darkness, slashed across the scene, and more blood burst forth. I continued to aggressively attack with my sword as two more individuals reacted with screams of terror and pain. Leo's eyes were wide, fixed on me, and I could tell what he was thinking. I'm a monster. A bald man clutched his chest, groaning in pain, blood staining his armor as he reeled from my attack. Still injured, he urgently told his companion, "These opponents, they're not ordinary. We need to retreat and inform the main unit." But their leader, a deserter, clenched his jaw, his eyes glowing with anger as he cursed our dire situation. He wouldn't back down. He lunged at me with his axes, refusing to be defeated. "I'll show you my strength," he roared furiously, his eyes glowing as a powerful force surrounded him and expanded. Honestly, I just thought he was ridiculously loud. I aggressively slashed at him, my blade cutting through his force. He groaned from the impact, visibly injured. I saw Leo nearby, his eyes wide in surprise, realizing I had just drawn Silpid. I stood victorious amidst the defeated enemies, taking a moment to glance down at my blood-splattered clothes. "Ugh, they're so dirty," I muttered, a small frown on my face. Leo's gaze swept across the blood-soaked battlefield, littered with numerous fallen foes. His face showed deep concern, his thoughts clearly racing about me and about everything else that had just happened. Blood splattered across the ground, painting a grim picture of what had just happened. My blade, still humming with power, made Leo flinch. I could feel his fear. He probably thought I was about to slit his throat. The deserters, panicked and distressed, declared their surrender right then and there. I began the interrogation, my voice cutting through the tension. "What's your name?" I asked one of the defeated deserters. He nervously confirmed his name was Erhin. A slight smirk touched my lips. "Do you have a rope, Erhin?" I asked. He eagerly affirmed he did. I ordered him to bring it over. The enemy looked surprised, confused even, but quickly agreed. Soon enough, Leo's hands and mine were bound tightly with thick rope. I let my thoughts race ahead. Leo looked at me with concern. "Do we really have to go to such extreme measures?" he questioned. I knew he understood the need to tie them up, but he still seemed to disagree with our situation. "And why are they still carrying their weapons?" Leo pressed. The deserter looked distressed, silently considering his discomfort. I had already explained my plan to Leo. We needed to act as convincing bait to find the enemy base. So Leo and I, still tied up, trudged through the dense forest. One of the deserters, probably Erhin, questioned, "Will it really look convincing if we are just walking around with our weapons while you're tied?" He added that it would otherwise be illogical for him, a grown man, to be taken by mere youths. I could hear the subtle disdain in his voice, and it actually made him groan in frustration at the thought of being perceived as weak. Our plan was to gather more information from our unwilling guide. I called out to Erhin, startling him. He quickly looked back, a nervous energy about him. "Are you all deserters?" I asked directly. He eagerly, almost flusteredly, affirmed. He then admitted they were from the kingdom of CEAs. I saw Leo's eyes narrow as he processed the confession. The kingdom of CEAs. He was probably connecting it to the war raging in the south. "How large is your group?" I pressed. He explained his group numbered a staggering 130, including a mage and 2 knight escorts. "A mage?" I questioned, my eyebrows raising. He affirmed it. My surprise was evident. 130 deserters? He confirmed the number, nodding nervously. I watched as Erhin's expression changed. He clearly realized he had underestimated us, probably thinking we were just common nobles. I could almost see the moment he recalled my blue glowing eyes from before. And just then, my eyes glowed an intense blue, leaving no doubt. He exclaimed, startled, "A mage!" His eyes widened further as the pieces clicked into place. He realized who we truly were. The children of the House of Reston, the very heart of the Oria's empire. I heard him curse under his breath about their situation. I looked at him again, my voice cutting through his panic. "Why, as deserters, have you come all the way to this remote northern region?" He started to answer, his voice laced with hesitation. He explained that their commander had promised them enough money to live a life of leisure. I simply observed him, letting him feel the weight of my gaze. Then I hit him with the real question. Why would a mere infantry commander have high-level personnel like a mage in his ranks? I continued to analyze the situation deeply, a furrow in my brow. It just didn't make any sense. Why would people looking for money choose to operate as bandits in a place as poor as the Bellis Barony? There was no real wealth here to steal. The more I thought, the more the entire situation felt wrong. "It's just ahead," the deserter mumbled, his voice breaking my thoughts as he pointed through the trees. We pressed on, pushing deeper into the dense forest. I was determined to confirm my suspicions once I saw the actual location with my own eyes. From a watchtower above, I saw one of the deserters watching us with narrowed eyes. Erhin, still dragging Leo and me along, led us towards a sturdy wooden gate. "Hostages? What are you doing with hostages?" the guy in the tower demanded, his voice echoing in the clearing. Erhin just waved him off, a dismissive flick of his hand. "And why are you alone?" "What's with that weapon?" the deserter pressed, his voice now laced with suspicion. Erhin stopped right in front of the gate, still clutching the rope that bound Leo and me. He glared up at the watchtower. "This weapon is mine now," he snarled aggressively, clearly referring to guillotine. "Don't interfere." Still holding us captive, Erhan quickly explained, "Our comrades are out pursuing the fleeing guards of those noble brats." Then he yelled, "Open the main gate." "Now, quickly open it," the deserter in the tower insisted, but I noticed another one nearby just looked completely annoyed by the whole scene. "Are you excited to get praise from the boss then?" one of them quipped, a hint of sarcasm in his voice. Erhan remained completely silent. The deserter in the tower seemed frustrated. "Why the delay in bringing back hostages?" he grumbled, directing his impatience at Erhan. I saw a bald swordsman with some padding give a stern look to a blond armored man next to him. "Quiet," he snapped. With Leo next to me, I couldn't help but think how surprisingly soft some of these guys were for a group of thieves. I mentally scoffed, reflecting on their incompetence. But then, a more pressing thought pushed its way into my mind. What was this mysterious force I was feeling? A strange pressure in the air. A persistent sense of unease settled over me, a chilling premonition. My unease only intensified, growing stronger. Then I felt it. Guillotine, my sword, was reacting. A strange hum, a vibration against my back, even though it was sheathed. What in the world was this? "Karen, are you okay?" Leo whispered, his voice laced with concern. I must have looked utterly surprised and confused, because I certainly felt it. Then I looked up, and my breath hitched. Ahead of us, a raven, impaled, on multiple stakes. It hung lifelessly on a crude wooden structure, blood dripping slowly, steadily to the ground below. I heard Erhan gasp, a sudden realization dawning on him. "It's a sacrifice," he whispered, his eyes wide. I immediately recognized the grave significance of this gruesome display. This wasn't just a bird. And then a massive, glowing magical symbol above it, previously unnoticed, erupted with a fiery red aura. A cold dread seeped into my bones. "This," I declared, my voice firm despite the chill, "this is black magic." "All right, let's get into it." I'm standing on this glowing runic circle with Erhan and Leo, and suddenly, tendrils of energy start rising around us. Erhan looks completely alarmed. "Get your sword and cut the ropes." I shout, but Leo just looks confused. I urgently draw my own sword. "Leo, draw Sylphid." I command. Erhan glances over his shoulder in shock, but Leo remains utterly confused as the energy swirls faster around us. I grip my drawn sword. "You'll need it soon," I tell him grimly. "What do you mean?" Leo asks, still confused. Then chaos. A skeletal scythe warrior materializes right in front of us, striking with its massive scythe amidst the swirling energy. Erhan screams in terror, recoiling from the powerful impact. Leo watches the whole scene, utterly shocked. After that initial chaos, I can see now, a ton of summoned skeletal warriors are forming inside a glowing magic circle all around us. Erhan stands defiantly, clutching his club, ready for a fight. I hear a voice from above. A hostage walked in on their own, a blessing. I look up and see 4 figures kneeling on a tiled rooftop, aiming their bows. "Welcome, everyone, to my mountain stronghold," a voice booms. I stand in the courtyard, looking up with determination at the white fur man and the headband archer standing on a balcony above. The commander glares down at us. "Precious little noble brats," he sneers. "The black wizard was not found," I declare. They speculate he must be hiding, chanting a spell. I grip my large sword defensively. "Still got these creepy types around," I mutter to myself. Erhan and Leo stand cautiously behind me. Suddenly, I grab Erhan, pressing my sword to his throat. "Don't attack," I warn the enemy. Erhan stands there, his own sword drawn, looking completely conflicted, while Leo watches me with concern. Leo looks shocked and distressed. "Honor?" he questions, almost disbelieving. The commander looks serious. "Nobles taking hostages?" he scoffs. "Aren't you a people who value honor above all?" he continues, questioning our very values. "Can't we disregard honor?" I retort, my voice unwavering. Erhan looks utterly shocked and distressed by my words. The fur collar man smirks, dismissing the whole argument. "A hostage without value is meaningless," he states with a cruel smile. I'm breathing heavily, still holding Erhan captive. "Completely useless," the commander shouts, his voice full of disdain. "Utterly worthless," he declares again. "I'm so sorry." I frantically apologize to Erhan, while the bowl-cut armored man watches us fearfully. "We're outnumbered," Leo whispers, glancing at the red skull swordsman and the skeletal warriors surrounding us. "Do you have a plan?" I confidently smile at Leo. Don't worry, I reassure him. I always have a plan. My expression turns determined. Our plan: take down their commander. I stand poised, my sword ready, radiating power as I prepare for combat. My eye glows intensely. As I activate my ability, an incredible magical phenomenon begins, swirling around me. The commander reacts with disbelief. Is that blue mana? He questions, stunned. I stand confidently, my sword ready. I'll handle the skeletons, I tell Leo, a smirk playing on my lips. Leo looked utterly shocked, asking me for an explanation. I just stood there, an intense blue aura radiating around me, my hand gripping my sword, every fiber of my being ready for battle. I'll handle the commander myself, I declared. Then, I unleashed a powerful force that rapidly expanded around me, and in the next instant, I lunged forward with incredible speed, directly towards the enemy. I continued my swift, decisive movement, weaving through the chaos. Karen, I heard Leo urgently call out my name. An axe skeleton lunged, but I saw Leo parry the devastating strike with his sword, a sharp metallic sound echoing as his blade met the enemy's weapon with immense force. I knew he was contemplating my actions, probably wondering how I could possibly fight so many skeleton soldiers alone. A large formation of magically empowered skeleton soldiers rapidly advanced across the chaotic battlefield. The commander shouted, ordering his troops to fire, but I was ready. I intensely gazed at them, unleashing a powerful attack. It's too late, I declared. My attack swept across the field, violently impacting the archers, who cried out in pain as they were thrown into disarray. The powerful wave continued its path, tearing through structures, a testament to my strength. The commander watched from a distance, his eyes wide. I lunged forward with my sword, and I saw him brace himself, cursing my name. I attacked, calling him a nuisance, my voice calm despite the fury of my blade. My powerful attack struck him squarely, severely injuring him and sending him reeling back. He screamed in pain. I stood victoriously, my sword in hand, looking down at the defeated commander. You should have attacked faster, I told him, my voice low. The injured commander struggled to speak, anger in his eyes as he cursed me. Why is Azure Sea Fortress involved? He choked out. You have no strength for other territories. The barony's location is next to my father's territory, I explained. I won't kill you. Instead, I'll drag you back to Azure Sea Fortress. I saw Leo look surprised at my words. You're not bad at all, I commented to him, urging him to crush the enemies head-on with strength, even with archers aiming directly at him. The commander, still on the ground, confronted me. Do you expect to leave safely? He demanded. What's your name? I asked him, my gaze unwavering. He looked upwards, meeting my eyes. Michael Knox, he identified himself. I didn't hesitate. I stabbed Michael Knox with my sword. He appeared surprised, pain contorting his face as blood sprayed. Michael screamed in agony, blood splattering around him. My hand firmly gripped my sword's hilt. Order your men to disarm, I commanded him forcefully. He urgently ordered his men to quickly dump their weapons. Good, I expressed, satisfied with his obedience. Michael let out a sharp, pained sound, still in agony. He looked upwards, contemplating their utter defeat to me and Leo. He was delusional, believing his reinforcements would make him invincible, even against a Reston like me. I observed that he was still clinging to something, some desperate hope. Are you counting on those black wizards? I asked Michael directly. Do you really think our family would only send 2 people? I challenged him, watching his reaction. Suddenly, Leo exclaimed that the magic circle had vanished. A powerful burst of energy erupted violently, impacting everything around us. Leo reacted with surprise, shouting that they must have a guardian. I looked around, seeing the landscape utterly ruined from that earlier burst, with debris flying everywhere and thick smoke billowing into the air. We wasted too much time, I muttered, frustrated that we'd failed to capture the Black Wizard. Then, Sabina just walked in, casually carrying a severed head. Her gaze was fixed intensely forward. I heard Erhan gasp in shock at the Black Wizard's head. Leo called out to Sabina, and she simply named us, Karen Reston, Leo Reston. Sabina declared our mission a failure because we'd missed crucial evidence. I just sighed in frustration. As Michael groaned in pain, I looked at Sabina. Do you approve of this method? I asked her. She commented that I was charging straight into the enemy's jaws, just like my elder brother. Then, she actually gave me credit, remarking that my fighting style was fitting for a House Reston member. With a casual flick, Sabina threw the severed head right on the ground in front of Michael. "Karen, pull a hostage stunt," Sabina told me. I held my sword casually, warning the man that a sudden hostage act would be penalized. I then laid out my unexpected plan to take hostages. Sabina agreed with what I'd said earlier. Then, with amusement, she looked at me. "Karen, you lunatic," she said about my strategy. "Thanks," I replied dryly. Michael, still distressed, looked at us as if we were lunatics, probably wondering if we were truly nobles. I just stood there, my sword resting at my hip. Sabina then told everyone to return to Lord Bellis's castle. She had many questions. I saw the fur jacket man, who had been so distressed, now looking down at the defeated brown jacket man and shaggy white man, lying in the snow. Shaggy white man looked up and affirmed his master's order. Michael, I could tell, thought we Reston people were completely insane. I hear a voice calling out, asking someone to come closer. Then, I watch as a man enters a room, his voice echoing as he calls out, "Isabel." A moment later, a child's cry reaches my ears, "Father." I see the man, his head bowed, apologizing. "I'm so sorry, I couldn't protect you." A figure in a red shirt embraces and comforts a crying red-haired boy, a scene of raw emotion. The child's voice trembles. "I was so scared, Dad." Erhan and I watch it all unfold from a distance, observing the scene. "Do you feel guilty?" I ask Erhan, my gaze fixed on the group below. Erhan looks distressed, his reply hesitant. I stand beside him, a smirk playing on my lips. Too early for that feeling, I tell him, the words sharp. "Honestly," I suggest, "prison might have been a better outcome for them." Erhan's eyes widen in surprise at my words. Soon, the guards declare, Erhan and his boss will go to Azure Sea Fortress. I see Michael, tied with the other prisoners, let out a pained sound. Erhan, meanwhile, questions, "Why must I also go?" Sabina turns to me. "Is it acceptable for him not to be tied up?" Michael watches our exchange intently. "He can remain untied," I confirm to Sabina. "We need his help to transport Michael to Azure Sea Fortress. Michael's too injured to walk." I instruct Erhan, emphasizing with a gesture, "Don't you dare let your guard down." He accepts my advice respectfully. A man approaches me. "Will Erhan also be punished?" he asks. "He was a bandit too," I confirm, stating the facts. The man quickly defends Erhan. "He took good care of us while we were imprisoned. He secretly brought medicine to the sick and gave his own food to those who were starving." He continues to plead, begging for mercy for Erhan. Sabina then looks to me. "What's your opinion, Karen?" I consider her question, appearing thoughtful. I weigh the situation, then deliver my decision. We'll at least consider leniency for now. Sabina and Erhan watch my response carefully. Erhan's face twists into a surprised expression as he looks forward. Besides, I add, Erhan also helped guide us to the hideout. Erhan, without hesitation, declares his lifelong loyal service to me. "Don't let your guard down," I remind him. From a balcony, I hear Leo's voice call out to me. "Karen, look at this," he says, motioning towards something in the room. "What's going on?" I ask, but Leo just repeats, "Just look." Leo and I observe a room, packed with wooden barrels. But one of them, it's emitting a mysterious blue glow. "Whoa!" I exclaim, my eyes wide at the sight. Inside, crystalline rocks emit a powerful, almost blinding light. I stare at the glowing rock. "It's a magic stone," I exclaim, the realization hitting me. Outside, I hear villagers shouting, "The filthy bandits deserve their fate." Leo then asks me, "Think the young baron will host a banquet for us?" A diverse crowd gathers around us. I see Leo walking among them, and Sabina is visible just behind me. Leo turns to me. "Karen, are you even listening?" I'm deep in thought, suddenly realizing this explains everything. Why would such a large bandit group hide in the remote mountains of the insignificant barony of Bellis? This magic stone, it has to be why. I continue to contemplate, the gears turning in my head. The baron's family, they're probably completely unaware of a magic stone mine right in their own territory. This changes everything. My expression shifted, a wide, sinister grin spreading across my face. My eyes glowed red with a predatory gaze. The mere existence of a mine, I knew, could bring immense profit. I saw Leo react, a flicker of unease crossing his features. He looked at me, concern and confusion etched on his face, asking, "What are you now scheming?" Then Sabina announced, "The young baron has arrived to greet us." I saw Leo flinch in surprise. Rohan welcomed us, his arms outstretched as guards stood by, holding flickering torches. I watched a guard gesture, ordering the prisoners locked in the dungeon. Sabina turned to the young baron, asking his permission to take the bandit Michael and Erhan. Rohan accepted her request. Then Rohan addressed Sabina directly, telling her he had a request for her. Sabina replied, saying she was only a guardian, and told them to speak with her students instead. Rohan suggested we eat at a prepared banquet and talk there, but I cut him off immediately. "No," I said, my voice firm. "We have to go to Azure Sea Fortress right away. We need to talk now." Rohan then explained that his territory couldn't pay the Azure Sea Fortress commission fee and requested a deferral. I saw Leo look concerned again, his thoughts probably circling back to my earlier unsettling gaze. I wondered why the bandits had chosen to settle in the Bellis Barony. Rohan reacted with confusion, asking me what I meant. I explained. The Bellis Barony is a remote area with no local specialties. I watched Rohan sweat, his jaw clenching as he tried to control his reaction to my words. I offered Rohan a magic stone. He looked surprised, realization dawning on his face. I held up the glowing blue magic stone. "Were you aware of such stones?" I asked him directly. Rohan's surprise was evident. He stated he was unaware of a magic stone mine in their territory. I watched him, a slight smile playing on my lips. I continued, telling him I wanted to make a proposal. Rohan's tone was questioning as he asked me about the proposal. I smiled, extending a hand, and proposed a joint mine development with Azure Sea Fortress. Then I specified the conditions for this joint development. Azure Sea Fortress, I explained, must provide initial capital and security forces. Rohan stared blankly at my proposal. He was sweating, momentarily speechless. I could almost hear his thoughts. Did I even understand my own proposal? He thought with disbelief. He closed his eyes, thinking, as he considered the high costs of just storing and guarding the mine. Then, I watched him reevaluate his thoughts. He was considering that an alliance with the Reston family for the mine could greatly benefit them. I stood there, still holding the magic stone. Rohan, I knew, believed I had also calculated the implications of my audacious proposal. I confidently explained my proposition, even as I could tell Rohan was internally questioning why I believed I could negotiate such a significant deal by myself. I explained to Rohan how the project could station the Harang Knights right at the mine, which I believed would rocket our economy and sort out our defense issues. I watched him listen intently, absorbing every word. Then, Rohan wondered what share of the mine the Duke's house would demand. "Business matters will need to be discussed with my father," I confidently stated, noticing Sabina listening beside me with her usual composed expression. Smiling dismissively, I added, "I'm not qualified to discuss the finer details of business after all." Rohan agreed, saying he would also discuss the matter with his father. I saw him smile, and the guards around us stood attentively. "I'll be in contact soon," I told him, just as Sabina frowned and let out an exasperated sound. The scene shifts, and now I'm looking out at a detailed night cityscape. "Why did you mention complications at the bandits' hideout?" I ask Sabina, my voice cutting through the night. She acknowledges my question. "Were you the cause of the complications?" I push, needing to know. I see her holding a small bag in her left hand. Leo, ever the eager one, asks Sabina, "Do you mean the dark mage you defeated?" Sabina corrects him, explaining that this wasn't just some ordinary dark mage. "Clarify." I press, sensing something big. She then drops a bomb. The dark mage was Ted Delaharda, a Class 2 wanted criminal and a 6th Circle dark mage. I reel back in disbelief. A Class 2 wanted criminal. Sabina confirms it, adding that he operated with Southern Kingdom deserters. Then, she admonishes us, scolding us for missing such an important detail while we were focused on lesser threats. "People only grow stronger by fighting powerful opponents," Sabina states, her gaze sharp. She criticizes us further, explaining we wouldn't have wasted time on lesser enemies if we had defeated him first. "The mission was a failure," she declares, her words a blow. "Remember my words, Karen," she tells me directly. Leo, beside me, obediently accepts her judgment. I can almost feel his sense of being overlooked, processing the harsh conversation. Then, Sabina calls out to Leo by his armored name, Brown Eye Armored. She tells him he did better than expected, then asks if it was his first time facing undead. "Have more confidence in yourself, Leo," she advises. Suddenly, sparkling dust marks a transition, and the scene shifts again. Now I see the Azure Sea Fortress, a massive fortified castle illuminated by the full moon at night. We're approaching from below as someone announces, "The Lord has returned." Heinrich welcomes Halo back to the castle. "Has anything unusual happened?" Halo asks him. "The Western Knights have returned," Heinrich informs him. "Leo and Karen are also returning from the Bellis Barony with Lady Sabina," Heinrich adds, and I see Halo nod in understanding. Suddenly, a man rushes forward, urgently calling out to Halo. "What's all this commotion?" Halo asks, a hint of concern in his voice. The man quickly presents a rolled scroll to him, announcing it's a letter from the Imperial Palace. Halo reaches out to receive it, a look of surprise crossing his face. I'm sitting here now, the steady thrum of the train wheels a constant companion as we hurtle towards the capital. My hand rests, almost instinctively, on the hilt of my sword. It's a familiar weight, a small comfort as my mind races, trying to process everything that's happened. Just a little while ago, I saw General Halo. He was holding some sort of scroll, and I watched as his face contorted in a wild mix of shock and disbelief. He actually gasped, a sound of pure surprise, his eyes wide as he stared at whatever was written there. And that, my friends, is why I'm on this train right now. That scroll, that letter, it was an unexpected, personal invitation from the Emperor himself. He wants me in the capital. It's a lot to take in, honestly. The butler stands there, formally smiling as Pale, and I greet him. "Father, Sabina." I call out. Pale mentions his elder brother, and he's quickly summoned. Pale smiles and pats my head, and I can't help but smile back. Sabina comments on my troublesome actions in Baron Bellis's domain, and I notice she seems rather pleased by it. Then Leo bows deeply, greeting his uncle and asking how he's been. Pale smiles, bringing up Leo's distinguished actions in the Baron's lands, saying he'd heard all about them. Leo, looking a bit flustered, brings a hand to his neck and smiles nervously. He confirms that our elder brother must have heard and would be absolutely delighted. "Are you tired?" Leo asks. "Should we head up now?" Sabina, ever sharp, turns to Pale. "Do you know anything about the Empire's unstable situation?" Pale gives a brief reply. He then looks down pensively, explaining that other powerful families are quickly uniting. Sabina listens attentively as he continues. The alliance is centered around Duke Salmon and Marquis Diaz. Pale explains that Father's plan to meet families in the capital didn't go as intended, and Sabina reacts with a surprised gasp. Pale grimly explains that Father canceled his plans because even talks with the Emperor didn't bring satisfactory results. He goes on to explain that Duke Salmon and Marquis Diaz, those powerful men who overthrew the tyrant emperor and placed the current one on the throne, now hold the real power in the realm. Sabina explains why her brother stepped back from central authority after the tyrant's fall. She believed he acted for the Empire's future, but now faced betrayal. With Pale listening, Sabina notes, "The age of peace is coming to an end. Our family must now take action," Pale states with conviction. Sabina then discusses how my actions might bring them great benefit. She explains this would allow us to station troops in other families' lands and expand our influence. She remarks, "Pale's son is quite interesting." She then comments on the precise timing of my advantageous actions for the family. Pale bashfully tries to deny her compliments, but Sabina retorts, "I wasn't truly praising you." Suddenly, Zeres appears, congratulating us all. I can't help but smirk confidently. Zeres mentions he'd heard of our exploits. He continues, stating that we crushed a bandit gang formed of deserters. Not bad for a day's work, right? I watch as Erhan carries the unconscious Michael, the bandit leader. Zeres is already on it, assuring me, "I'll extract every bit of information from this bandit leader." I have no doubt she will. One of the other knights asks who's carrying him, then points directly at Erhan. "Take Erhan along too," I tell them, and I can see his eyes widen in total surprise. "My lord," Erhan gasps, completely shocked. "He's an informant," I explain to the knights. "Treat him lightly, then release him. Asterisk though, honestly, he might make a pretty good personal servant. I should keep that in mind." Asterisk the knights acknowledge my instructions with a firm nod. "Alright everyone, let's head inside and get some rest," I say, turning to Leo, who looks ready for a break. But Zeres cuts in, her tone firm. "Rest? Our mission isn't complete yet." "Of course." She orders us to file a mission report, explaining it'll help us reassess our work and improve for next time. "Do we both have to write separate reports?" I ask her, already dreading it. Zeres allows Leo and me to write the report together. I did all the hard work, I declare, nudging Leo. So you can handle the report, right? He just stares at me, completely surprised. Wouldn't it be faster if we did it together? Leo suggests, clearly not thrilled. I throw my arm around his shoulder, leaning in. Remember, our uncle will read this report. Leo makes a small, questioning sound. This is your chance to earn his favor, Leo. I tell him with a wink. Really? Leo asks, his eyes lighting up. Too much credit for me would have the opposite effect. I explain, knowing exactly how to play this. Meanwhile, Zeres orders Hans to lock the prisoners in their cells, and he confirms it. Then Sabin walks up, totally casually, and tosses a bag towards Zeres. Here, handle the wanted man's head, he says. Zeres looks surprised as she catches the bag. Sabin then instructs her, submit the report under the subordinates' names, which I'm pretty sure means mine and Leo's. Leo just stands there, looking utterly blank. Good luck, Leo. I say with a grin, making my escape. Where are you going? Leo calls out after me. The Ether Training Hall. I reply, already walking away. I've hit the 4th star, so I can use it independently now. I hear Zeres acknowledge it, marveling that I'm heading straight to the training hall after my first mission. It's hard to believe he's only 13. I hear her mutter under her breath. I just keep walking, hands clasped behind my head, a satisfied smirk on my face. Time to get stronger. My brothers rap hail, Tails, and Pale's eyes widened. They'd recognized it, that powerful dark energy. It was the Tyrant Emperor's black ether. I saw the man with the blonde ponytail looking on, a worried expression on his face. Pale questioned it, reminding Halo that the Tyrant Emperor had been dead for a very long time. Halo considered the heavy possibility, then voiced his deduction. This black ether could be dwelling within monsters. He continued explaining that there were only 2 possibilities. Halo went on, suggesting one was the tyrant's lingering will, hinting at a second, even more shocking option. Then came the declaration. Halo flat out stated his conclusion. The Tyrant Emperor was still alive. He delivered this bombshell with a determined gaze. Halo continued, linking these events directly to the Empire's current dire situation. He then added that he had more to say, and he kept talking. My brothers listened intently, their expressions grave. Pale visibly startled when he heard the news. The Emperor had summoned me to the capital. Halo stood confidently, arms crossed. He said he couldn't possibly send me to the Imperial Palace alone. So, he announced he'd send Leo and the Sea Wave Knights to accompany me. Pale reflected on the situation for a moment. Then Halo decided he would ask for my opinion first. He even said he wouldn't force me to go if I refused. Tails, ever cautious, voiced his concern that the plan might cause problems, but Halo brushed it off, noting it was fine because I was still a child. Then Halo brought up a more important matter. He intended to learn the exact reasons behind the deal made with Baron Bellis's son. Halo then asked Zeres to bring me forward. A powerful aura enveloped me as Zeres quickly assured Halo he would obey. Alright, listen up. So I'm sitting there, cross-legged on my mat, the giant glowing blue moon lighting up the serene night sky. Leaves are drifting down outside a distant, angular building, and I'm just emanating powerful energy, really getting into my meditation. Suddenly, Zeres is there. I open my eyes. When did you arrive? I ask, my energy still humming around me. He calmly replies, not long ago. Only direct family and you are allowed here, I state, a slight frown touching my lips. I don't remember you entering the laboratory. I pause, then ask, is your visit urgent? Zeres looks up, a surprised expression on his face. It will be soon, he declares, that you will likely have to go to the capital. The capital? I ask, my gaze questioning. Zeres explains that the head of the family has summoned me to the family council. He says I'll learn the details directly from him. So we walk down an ornate hallway, a bright blue light drawing my eye. A servant opens a grand door for us. As I step through, the servant announces, Lord Karen has arrived. I'm welcomed into the council, and Halo, the head of the family, immediately asks if we've completed our first mission. Our mission is complete, I confirm respectfully. Halo then explains he called me because of recent events in the barony of Bellis. He questions my independent actions with the Bellis family, stating I don't yet have the right to represent our house in negotiations. I listen with a serious expression, realizing this is a scolding. Halo sternly questions what he calls my arrogant behavior as a grave discourtesy to the Bellis family. It was not. I respond directly to the head of the family. I assertively explain that I only proposed one deal to the Bellis baronet, and the baronet willingly accepted my proposal. I then state that something more important outweighed formal noble etiquette. Halo reacts with surprise, asking for clarification. What could be more important to a noble than courtesy? He questions, a challenge in his voice. With a thoughtful expression, I meet his gaze. The honor of the family is more important, I state. Halo's face shifts, showing a serious and contemplative expression, a subtle aura forming around him. I can tell he understands I'm not boasting, even with the deal's value. I'm prioritizing the family's benefit over my own. His expression shifts to approval. The tactic was excellent, he states, a note of satisfaction in his voice. I notice another family member watching intently, and two individuals are still watching each other cautiously, though I keep my gaze forward. Halo reiterates his approval, declaring the deal brought great benefit to our house. He then suggests that Pale should handle the negotiations. He proudly states that a father could benefit from his son's achievements. Pale agrees with the head of the family and announces his departure for the barony of Bellis at daybreak. The discussion then shifts to a letter from the Emperor, and I see Halo gently hold a chess piece, his gaze already moving to the next strategic move. This is getting interesting. His Majesty has summoned you, he states, the words hitting me with a strange weight. Word of your actions has already reached the capital. I look down, deep in thought. How did the Emperor's letter arrive so quickly, even before Father returned? Is the Emperor's intelligence network truly that extensive? No, I realize. The current Emperor is probably just a puppet, controlled by a powerful network of noble factions. I see Father looking at me, clearly deep in thought himself. He then calls out to me, telling me I don't have to go if I don't wish to. He explains that I must already understand the implications of heading to the capital now. I can tell he's thinking that the noble houses in the capital would want to confirm who I really am, and it might be wiser to avoid the capital to prevent drawing attention. But I enthusiastically state that I will go. I think to myself, I'll get to see my grandfather after a long while. With a concerned expression, I then ask if I'll be going alone, explaining that Brother Leo also completed the mission with me. Father calmly states that Leo will accompany me if I go, and Hans's squad will escort us both. Upon hearing it, my eyes go wide, and a surprised expression crosses my face. I express my confusion, asking if an escort is truly necessary with my grandfather present. Father clarifies that the escort isn't assigned because I'm special. He assertively explains that the escort is necessary because no one knows what trouble I might cause next. Yes, Father, I respond respectfully. He then commands us to leave, stating that our departure is set for 3 days. Yes, Father, I confirm his command. So, I'm listening as Baron explains this super generous offer, saying it's all to win my favor and Leo's. Honestly, Pale, standing there, looks like he thinks they're not even trying to hide their intentions. Leo, looking genuinely surprised, elaborates, Bellis is investing, and it's for the two of you who will one day lead Azure Sea Fortress. Pale, still internally fuming, probably thinks it's shameless how confident they are in recognizing our promising talents. Is that true? He asks, almost challenging them. Then Pale declares, it's a bold decision. My father is fortunate to have such an outstanding son. A subtle smirk plays on his lips as he adds, though I'm not as brilliant as Lord Pale. He then turns to us, announcing, it's time to hear Leo and Karen's opinions. I can't help but let an evil grin spread across my face. I see Leo shoot me a questioning look, wondering why I'm smiling that way. Pale, however, accepts the agreement, expressing his desire to build a strong bond moving forward. Baron, ever the diplomat, states it's an honor to work with such a great house. Now the scene shifts, and all I see is an empty road stretching out before us. Railway tracks running alongside, all under a bright, open sky. This, my friends, is the start of our journey. A little while later, Leo calls out to me. Hey, I have a question for you. I turn to him. So, he asks, how exactly are we going to split these shares we're receiving? I confidently propose a 9-to-1 split of the shares. Of course, I'd be taking the larger portion. I watch Leo's face as he looks completely shocked. He holds up an item. 9 shares. Why are you taking so much? I react with a startled, huh? Then, I turn it back on him. How can you even propose such a thing given our good relationship? I ask him, incredulous. Leo confirms, you'll indeed receive 9 shares. I sternly warn him about the consequences if he dares to change his mind later, and with a reluctant sigh, he agrees. I look over and see Pale, accompanied by another man, smiling contentedly. I can almost hear him thinking about how Leo and I used to fight when we were younger. And it's true, despite all our squabbles, we've become, well, inseparable now. I stared at the grand, ornate building, illuminated against the night sky. It was almost unbelievable that we were actually going to the capital. Leo, clearly anxious, turned to me, asking what we should do, since he only knew rumors about the capital. "Don't fuss," I told him, trying to keep him calm. We were inside a beautifully decorated room now. Leo earnestly tried to explain that fussing about meeting the Emperor was perfectly natural. He even thoughtfully agreed with himself. I reacted with surprise, asking for clarification, because honestly, I didn't see the big deal. Then Leo, his worries quickly forgotten, enthusiastically asked if we'd attend social parties. He'd apparently heard about many beauties in the capital. I reminded him, exasperatedly, that he was not a child and we had more important things to focus on. All of a sudden, Lady Sabina appeared out of nowhere. Leo looked utterly surprised to see her. She described our current location as a fun place with many strong people, while Leo, ever the curious one, questioned how she'd gotten so high up. She then revealed that this whole trip would be a very good experience for us. But then Lady Sabina started looking for wine goblets to celebrate our first mission. Wine goblets? I questioned, looking around the room. In a 13-year-old's room? Only water cups are available, master. Lady Sabina calmly picked up a water cup. Any vessel capable of holding wine will be suitable, she explained with a smile. Then she somehow knew about my daily wine consumption. She turned to Leo, asking if he had ever drunk wine. Leo, bless his honest heart, admitted I had given him wine a few times. Lady Sabina remarked that I had made him an accomplice. I just confidently suggested that we'd be better off getting scolded together. Lady Sabina then poured a drink into Leo's water cup, telling him not to hesitate since she was his master. Leo hesitantly accepted the drink, eyeing it warily. She told us both that we had grown splendidly. I spectrally thanked my master, a genuine warmth spreading through me. Then, her tone shifted slightly. She stated that 3 years had passed since a promise to an elder brother. She revealed her disappointment about not being able to see the havoc we would cause in the capital. Leo, ever the direct one, clarified if she was imminently returning to the North Sea, and if this meant we wouldn't see her again. But Lady Sabina just teased him, questioning his sentimentality. She said she'd let him talk to women in the capital, which prompted a surprised exclamation from Leo. My master really knew how to get a reaction out of him. Then, she suddenly turned serious, warning Leo not to go to parties with me. Leo, confused, asked what she meant. She explained that my looks, talent, and silver tongue would cause issues. Leo, hearing her assessment of my charming nature, reacted with a mix of surprise and maybe a hint of concern. So Leo walked closer to me, confronting me not to ruin his marriage chances. I reacted, telling him not to imagine things too far. I urged him to stop talking nonsense and simply drink, which, thankfully, Leo agreed to. A desk was visible in the foreground, bathed in warm, golden light. On that desk, I saw Halo drinking wine. Outside of that grand room, I heard his servant announce Pale's arrival to the Lord. Then, Pale stood respectfully, asking if he had been called. Halo simply stated that the successful negotiations with Bellis had been concluded. I watched as he leaned forward, laying out the terms. Shares would be given to me, Leo, and Pale. And I heard him specifically note the young Baron's strong influence on these terms. That was a surprise, honestly. He explained that this whole deal was an investment for the future. Halo then remarked that Baron Bellis had quite the clever son. My father, always composed, agreed it was a good outcome, adding that having a reliable ally was never a bad thing. Then, I saw my father turn to Pale. He assigned Pale to handle all future matters concerning Bellis. Pale, ever confident, accepted the new responsibility, assuring my father he wouldn't disappoint. I watched as my father handed a prepared drink to Pale, who gratefully accepted and thanked his lord. Pale stood there, holding the drink, lost in thought. I could practically see his mind churning, no doubt pondering my father's praise, sensing a deeper reason for his summons, perhaps related to my upcoming trip to the capital. Then, my father's voice cut through the silence. He looked at me, though he spoke to Pale, stating that the Emperor had never directly summoned anyone but him. He He explained that my summons to the capital was extremely unusual. I saw Pale reflect, and I knew he understood. This entire discussion was indeed about me. My father then described how he had again observed the king's fearful gaze towards him during a private audience. He continued, explaining that he understood the king's fear stemmed from the possibility that he, my father, might overthrow him, just as he had overthrown the evil emperor. He even suggested that another's influence likely played a role in the king's actions. I heard Pale ask if my father believed the situation was political, and my father's response was direct. Yes, he absolutely did. He then explained the escalating political situation in the capital, noting how powerful houses were rallying. He then turned back to Pale, asking why he hadn't refused the king's request. My father remarked that Pale still hadn't refused the request, and Pale confirmed it. I listened as Pale asked for his reason, but my father simply laughed, repeating Pale's question back at him. Then he dropped a bombshell that even surprised Pale. His true intent was to evaluate me. My father explained that I had been chosen by the ancestors' sword, guillotine, and was destined to stand at the very center of our family. As a member of Reston, I would inevitably face scrutiny from external forces, and he declared that I would continue to face countless threats. This, my father firmly stated, was why he hadn't refused the king's request. He said I must endure hardships to shoulder the house's future. The weight of his words settled on me, a heavy cloak of expectation. I heard Hockey ask if my father was worried, but Pale just took a casual sip from his glass. I watched Pale struggle to find the words to speak to my father, who maintained his stern expression. Then, with a thoughtful and understanding gaze, my father announced that he trusted in me. And with that, he seemed satisfied with his own answer. The next morning, as the sun began to peek over the horizon, I saw Lady Sabina standing by a white horse, looking at Zaraz. He asked her if she would say goodbye to us, the two young masters, separately, but Lady Sabina simply stated it was fine. She explained that she had shared drinks and had a good time with us last night. Zaraz, ever the grumbler, muttered that we had drunk his liquor dry until the very end. But Lady Sabina just smiled, stating that we would be busy leaving for the capital today, and it was better to leave quietly. Alright, so she was telling Zaraz she hoped to meet him again, and I heard him promise to keep the wine stocked for her until their next meeting. Then, her attention shifted, and I knew she had noticed me at the window. It was me. I respectfully bowed to her, bidding my farewell, and I saw Lady Sabina smile. Then, I watched her ride away on her horse, smiling and waving, a promise in her gesture that we'd meet again. I felt a happy warmth knowing she was going back to the North Sea, a place she considered home, as I watched her from the window. I knew in my heart she was always welcome to come back, and I'd be waiting with good wine. Later, I found myself looking ahead with a serious, contemplative expression, reading a letter. I lamented her departure for the North Sea, wishing I had more than just this message. A wave of concern washed over me. With my master gone, I knew my uncles would likely start making their moves. But then, a voice suddenly called out for me. I saw Tails' face serious and close as he announced, "My aunt has also departed. Speaking of the tiger makes it appear." The grand building gleamed under the bright sky. Head butler Zaraz asked if the young master's luggage was loaded. "Yes, sir, all preparations are complete," I confirmed. He then intently questioned Leo's formal wear. "Every item has been packed, head butler," I assured him. "Is such a fuss truly necessary for our departure?" I couldn't help but ask. Zaraz explained that this journey was crucial. We, the young masters, would be meeting His Majesty as family representatives. I acknowledged his point, but doubts lingered. I then questioned why Hansa's squad was joining us. Zaraz responded that their purpose was to protect us. One of Hansa's own piped up, suggesting it was more about us causing trouble. "Silence," I ordered him immediately. Of many nuisances, that one was particularly grating, I thought, feeling visibly annoyed. I overheard Leo wondering what was happening to me. I turned, bowing respectfully to my uncle Tails. "Good morning, uncle," I greeted him. He returned my greeting. He then asked if I was going to the capital. "Yes, uncle," I confirmed. "We've received an invitation from the emperor himself." With a stern face and intense eyes, Tails called my name. "Karen," he began, "I need you to do me a favor." "Anything, uncle," I affirmed. "Do not behave in the capital like you did in Chong Haisong," he warned. He stated that I understood his meaning and would not elaborate. I affirmed, a cold realization settling in. I'd been watched. He sternly warned me that enemies in the capital wanted to tear our family apart, emphasizing the serious consequences if I gave them even the slightest excuse. He then threatened to punish me harshly himself. I felt a pang of surprise, even intimidation, at his words. I quickly recovered, offering a confident smile. "Thank you for your wise words, Uncle," I said. "I promise to live up to your expectations." Tails turned and told me to return safe and sound. "I will, Uncle," I confirmed, then departed. As I subtly watched Tails depart down the hallway, I silently reflected on the situation. I clenched my jaw, suppressed anger simmering. "A harsh punishment," he said. Defiantly, I questioned his talk. My face lit up menacingly, a smirk spreading across my lips. I challenged his authority then and there, vowing to make him suffer. Revenge. Yes, that's what I vowed against Tails. A sleek, futuristic train stood ready in the station. "Preparations for departure are complete," someone announced. I sternly warned the bald man not to cause trouble. "That's exactly what I wanted to tell you," he asserted back. The bald man then called out my name. I turned back, a questioning look on my face. He thanked me for giving him another chance. "What are you referring to?" I questioned. But then I revealed the truth. I was taking him to the capital for imprisonment. The bald man reacted in shock. "Don't let your guard down," I reminded him, a sly glint in my eyes. Then a voice announced, "Squad leader, all aboard." The man then announced our departure to Zara's, who gave his approval. "All right, so Zara's laid it out for us. Avoid trouble in the capital and return safely," he commanded. Honestly, I couldn't help but feel a bit annoyed. I mean, anyone seeing us would totally think we were a bunch of delinquents already. On the train platform, Zara's gave us one last warning about hidden flaws. Whatever that meant, and I just let out an annoyed sound. Then, with a final order, he told us it was time to depart. Just as we were about to move, someone abruptly called out my name. "Karen, wait." It was my father, Pale. "Father, have you been in Chonghaisong?" I asked, surprised to see him. He explained that my grandfather had called him there, but it was for more than just that. He looked at me, a gentle smile on his face, and said he wanted to see me one more time before I left. I was genuinely surprised. He then revealed that my maternal grandfather was really looking forward to my arrival. "I can't wait to see him either," I told him, a bit of excitement bubbling up. "Has grandfather prepared many gifts for me?" I asked, a hopeful grin on my face. Pale just looked at me with that gentle smile and tapped me on the shoulder, and for a moment, I just paused, lost in thought. Then, he gently placed his hands on my head. "Return safely," he told me, "and try not to cause too much trouble." He knew me too well. Soon, we were on the train, moving towards the capital. I impatiently stared out the window. "Hans, what's our arrival time in the capital?" I asked. Hans replied, "We'll arrive in about 6 hours, passing through the Thebes Autonomous Territory." "Thebes Autonomous Territory?" I asked, intrigued. Leo clarified, "It's that unusual city where commoners directly elect their mayor. It's known for its more developed commerce and industry, completely unlike the farming areas around here. So, that's where the most money circulates in the entire empire, right?" I mused, putting it together. Hans confirmed, "Exactly. And there, money equals class." He went on to explain that the city holds a lot of influence over the empire because of its massive capital, which is why lords from other regions often try to severely check its power. I affirmed his point. I remembered hearing that serfs sometimes fled to the territory just to escape tyrannical lords. But Hans also mentioned that Thebes was quite friendly with our Chonghaisong, and sometimes they'd even commission large-scale requests from our Order of Knights. That actually surprised me. Looking out the train window, I thought about it. I really wished I could visit the territory if I had the chance. Just then, an announcement crackled through the speakers. "We are soon entering the Thebes Autonomous Territory." A mischievous thought crossed my mind. "After our schedule is done, I'm thinking about sneaking away to explore it," I said, a grin forming. Leo's eyes lit up. "I want to go too," he eagerly exclaimed. But then my expression shifted. My gaze became serious, contemplative. I suddenly sensed something unusual. A jolt, like an electrical current, ran through my guillotine. My sword was reacting. I knew it. My sword was sensing danger. I wondered if Tails or Raphael had planted someone among our group. I continued to ponder, thinking they weren't foolish enough to risk so much, when Hans suddenly called out to me. I urgently told Hans to contact the Thebes Autonomous Territory. He He looked surprised, asking, "Why the sudden order?" But I aggressively stated, "There's no time to explain," and ordered him to alert the other Ks to prepare for an attack. Hans understood my urgent commands. So Hans commanded his entire entourage to prepare for an attack, and I heard the members acknowledge him. I contemplated the potential external threat and how attackers would target a moving train. Then, without warning, a colossal force erupted. A deafening explosion ripped through the dense forest, shaking our train violently. It's a nightmare I'm still living. 1 minute, I'm just on a train, and the next, everything is chaos. My head is throbbing, my body aching, and I'm still shaking from something catastrophic. I manage to turn my head, my eyes scanning the devastation, and I spot Hans. He looks just as shocked as I feel, his face pale amidst the grime. "Hans," I croak out, my voice raspy. "What is happening?" He immediately shifts his focus to me, his gaze sharp. "Karen, are you hurt?" I manage a quick assessment. "Just a minor scratch," I tell him, though every cell in my body screams otherwise. Hans doesn't waste another second. "Situation report," he barks, his voice cutting through the ringing in my ears. A serious voice immediately responds. 1 seriously injured, 2 lightly injured. Dale is the seriously hurt one. Then I hear Erhan's voice. Even he's reporting. 2 casualties in our car. My stomach drops. If even Erhan, the lowest ranking of us, is confirming casualties, this is truly dire. I turn back to Hans, needing some kind of anchor in this madness. "Hans, do you know our current location?" He processes it quickly, his eyes narrowing slightly. "We're about 10 kilometers away from the Duke's autonomous region." 10 kilometers. The Duke's autonomous region. My mind races. Hans tells me he'd already contacted the autonomous region before I even woke up, anticipating their movements. He looks at me, resolute, then instructs Leo and me to run as far away as possible. He and his squad will buy us time. As Hans confirms his orders, my gaze is fixed on the guillotine. My senses are screaming. Attackers are here again. I firmly plant my sword into the ground, my body reacting before my thoughts can even form the question. Are they really here? "I'm sorry, Hans," I say, refusing his order. "We can't leave." Sen asks me why. "They destroyed the Emperor's railway," I explain, my voice tight. "That's treason. An act of treason against the Emperor himself." Leo holds his sword ready. "We can't run from enemies like this," I argue, "especially with your injured leg, brother." I look at him. "Can you fight?" He meets my gaze, defiant despite his injury. "I can fight," he confirms, his voice firm. "Only one option remains," I declare. Suddenly, a loud grunt of pain and surprise erupts. I see a hooded man reel back, blood splattering from a severe strike I've just landed. I stand menacingly, having unleashed my attack, as the man stares at me in shock. "Kill them all," I aggressively command everyone. Then, an explosive attack erupts, a blinding light and debris sending me flying through the air. I see a hooded man looking down at the ground, deep in thought. There are more of them than I expected, I think surprised. I hear a subtle shift, a teal-hooded blade adjusting their weight. Amidst the cloudy chaos, a voice commands a second squad to dismount. Another voice shouts, "Protect the young masters." On the dusty, war-torn road, I see numerous enemy soldiers clashing with our allied knights. Hans observes the approaching enemy forces. "They're all shield knights, rank 3 or higher," he assesses. I nod in agreement. He continues his tactical assessment, drawing my attention to their leader. That leader, Hans reveals, is a rank 6 individual. Then their leader calls out, "Karen Reston." He commands me to abandon our weapons and surrender. I know his voice is magically distorted. The leader continues his offer, promising to spare our allied knights and servants if we cooperate. But I stand amidst the splattered blood. "Come on then." I aggressively challenge my opponents. "All of you, attack me at once." As the enemy advances, I confidently face the many hooded figures. 2 hooded figures react with visible shock and concern. They know my unexpected power isn't part of their conditions. Then their leader commands everyone to move aside as he steps forward. He confidently states he'll handle me himself. Upon hearing this, I gaze at him intently, a stern expression on my face. "Are you finally stepping up?" I ask. My eyes snap wide open, a jolt of pure shock running through me. What just happened? I blurt out, completely baffled by the sudden shift. But before I can even process it, Hans is there. He lunges forward, his massive sword cutting through the air, and with a deafening clang, he blocks the leader's attack. I just stare, my surprise mounting as I watch him push back the sudden threat. He's dangerous, Karen. Hans shouts over the clash of steel, his voice urgent. Step back. The leader just snarls, his eyes locked on Hans. You're only rushing your own death, he growls, his voice dripping with venom. All right, let's get right back into the action, because things are heating up fast. I watch as Hans shouts, delivering a powerful overhead sword swing. But the enemy? He swiftly evades it, or maybe even counters. It's too fast to tell. Then, with a grunt, the enemy lunges forward, unleashing a powerful sweeping attack with his large curved blade. I hear the clang as it clashes against Hans's sword, but Hans parries it with expert precision. The enemy, though, he's locked in, showing intense focus on Hans. Hans unleashes his own powerful slash, but again the enemy evades it, shattering the ground where Hans's blade would have landed. Hans grimaces, clearly surprised by the sheer speed. He stands observing, muttering, "Did he just deflect that?" As Hans continues to watch, the enemy performs a swift, fluid sword movement. What kind of movement is that? Hans wonders aloud, his brow furrowed. Suddenly, the enemy's eyes glow, and he makes a dynamic move with his hands, power emanating from him. Hans's eyes widen. He's Cheyenne Hakimi, he says, a 6-star knight from the Paver Sultanate. I can see Hans is completely thrown. Why is a Paver Sultanate knight in our empire? He questions, almost to himself. He's clearly pondering the non-aggression pact between our empire and the Sultanate. This doesn't make any sense. Deep concern and anger flash across Hans's face. He then wonders aloud, why is Cheyenne Hakimi after Karen? My name, he's after me? Hans thinks to himself that the Sultanate and my family, the Reston ducal family, have no particular grudge against each other. This is beyond strange. Hans, now fully poised for battle, stares intently at Hakimi. Already, 2 of their allies lay defeated on the ground nearby. Then it's on. A chaotic battle erupts. Leo, Hans, and I clash with Hakimi and his remaining crew. Swords violently clash all around me, the brutal struggle sending blood splattering through the air. Hans is fighting fiercely, determined to find answers to all these questions. The tide has turned in our favor, he shouts, as another enemy falls, critically wounded. The young masters are doing well too, he adds, a quick glance in my direction. Suddenly, a sharp impact sound fills the air. Hakimi unleashes a forceful strike that sends Hans sliding backward. Do you have time to look away? Hakimi sneers. He recognizes Hans. You're a knight of Harang, he states. Hans's face is contorted in exertion, his eyes glowing. Your battle line has crumbled, Cheyenne Hakimi, he declares. Hans lunges forward with a powerful downward slash, but Hakimi swiftly parries it with his curved sword. Hans stands his ground, having created a small crater with the sheer impact of his last strike. He observes Hakimi, keeping a wary distance. Surrender, Hans commands. Any more resistance is futile. Has our own battle line truly crumbled? Hakimi questions, looking around at his defeated allies. I stand confidently with Leo and Hans. Hakimi looks at us, then affirms his observation. Hans stands victorious on the battlefield. Our side has clearly won this round. Surrender to spare your life, Hans tells Hakimi. Why die in a foreign land? But Hakimi, now surrounded by an even more intense aura, declares, I have no intention of further persuading those who do not understand. His red glowing eyes intensify his aura even further. I will simply complete my mission, he states with chilling resolve. Hans reacts with wide-eyed shock at this terrifying intensity. His eyes are so bloodshot, he mutters. Capillaries have burst. What mission is he talking about? And what is Hans going to do against this level of resolve? Things are about to get even crazier. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay tuned for the next part. An overwhelming, destructive power erupts from Hakimi, coiling around him. He stands in a powerful stance, radiating an immense, almost suffocating energy. I see Hans flinch, surprised, muttering something under his breath about mana reflux. Hans grips his sword, his face grim, sweat beading on his forehead. I can see the deep concern and distress in his eyes. He must realize capturing Hakimi alive is no longer an option, and now the young masters are in danger. Then, Hans lets out his own power, mana swirling around him and his sword, clearly resolving to let it run rampant. Hakimi is completely engulfed in intense mana. Hans, too, is consumed by it, his form partially obscured by the intense glow. hinting at a powerful transformation. He's releasing immense mana, just like Hakimi. I'm disappointed, Hans, I say, my eyes radiating mana, mirroring the intensity around us. I clench my jaw, feeling the mana around me subtly intensify. Were you here to stop me from causing trouble? Are you already giving up? A smirk plays on my lips as I look at him. Then I lunge forward, my sword leading the way. Hakimi spins, his eyes wide as he calls out my name. Karen. I prepare my attack, raising my hand. That's right, I confirm, my voice steady, even as Hakimi remains wreathed in intense mana. A slight smirk touches my lips as mana radiates from me. My name is Karen Reston, I declare. I grip my sword, delivering a swift, powerful attack. The impact is immediate, a violent spray of blood erupting. I relentlessly slash at Hakimi's arm, drawing more blood. Hans just stands there, watching me. Hakimi looks down, defeated, and acknowledges me. A subtle smile touches my lips. A monster, huh? I reply when he calls me that. Is that a compliment? Then my eyes widen in surprise. An aura begins to emanate from my sword. What the? I voice my confusion, my eyes fixed on it. I see him, the fiery armored swordsman, now powerfully wielding a sword identical to the blue blade swordsman's, engulfed in an immense surge of power. My sword guillotine is vibrating in my hand. A threat still remained, I realize with a jolt. Shock and anger surge through me. Does he still have a trick? I demand. Hans's face contorts in distress. I hear Hakimi say, I apologize, Karen. We held no ill will. I look confused, wondering what the hell is happening. I move quickly. All squad members cover Leo. I command. Leo reacts with shock as knights try to cover him. What's going on? Leo shouts as they shield him. Hans screams my name, reaching out to me in distress. A shocked gasp escapes me as something unseen hits. Visibly distressed and sweating, I urgently ask Hans, what's wrong? That magic, Hans shouts. It's self-destruction magic. He lets out a startled exclamation. I regret my incompetence, Karen. I'm sorry. Hans cries out, his voice full of deep regret. My eyes widen further in shock and deep concern. Self-destruction magic? I question, my voice barely a whisper. Hakimi is completely engulfed in mana once more. The flaming mask figure's armored form becomes engulfed in an even more furious explosion of flames and energy. Debris flies everywhere as the powerful struggle intensifies around us. An overwhelming surge of mana consumes the area around me. I hear Hans's desperate voice, urging me to survive. Then an overwhelming explosion impacts, scattering debris and lighting up the sky. I see Hans shield himself, trying to block the intense, swirling energy and flying debris. My eye glows with immense power, distorting as I unleash my own powerful explosion. I remember Hans declaring he'd earn his keep, eager to taste the blood of fresh knights. Now, I hear someone yell, warning others to squeeze their eyes shut to avoid them popping. My lightning focuses its intensity, arcing downwards into the dark depths. The powerful explosion leaves the ground around me completely chaotic. I urgently call out, Hans. I plead for him to wake up, seeing just part of his head visible against the chaotic backdrop. I see Hans's face up close, his eye partially open, sweat beading on his skin as he struggles to regain consciousness. How long are you going to stay sprawled out down there? I question him. Hans angrily states, I threw myself on the line to protect you. I just respond with annoyance. Ungratefully, I ask, why did you even save me? Then I hear a voice, a thought truly. This situation wouldn't have ended like this if it wasn't for him. I look down with a serious expression, recognizing that voice and beginning to connect my thoughts. Clutching my blood-stained sword, I look down. The unknown voice reflects on the destructive power, thinking, no flesh would have been left. Then it demands gratitude. I grip my glowing sword, and it asks me, are you listening? I express my surprise and annoyance, realizing this sword is sentient and very talkative. I see a massive derailed train, shattered in a deep fissure nearby. I question aloud, is this an ego sword? I then see Erhin carrying an injured knight past a large green area. An ego sword? I repeat my question. Hans stands in front of me. I know these swords are forged by mad blacksmiths using souls. I stand nearby, still holding my own sword. I add, swords like these are special because their very material can talk, just like my sword here. I hold my sword, a slight smirk on my face. Hans looks confused. My sword threatens me. If you compare me to a cursed ego sword again, I'll cut off your head. The sword angrily explains. I wasted mana saving you from that explosion. Hans then notices approaching horse-drawn carriages, a clear signal of more enemies. I react, taken aback by Hans's observation. My sword declares, I would have cut off your neck at that very moment. It continues its frustrated explanation, telling me to be grateful because it had already spent all its gathered mana. The person approaching calmly reassures me. I am not an enemy. My sword, sounding tired and exasperated, admits its exhaustion. Suddenly, a vibrant mystical circle with runes appears, featuring a powerful depiction of an ornate blue swordsman. Could I only absorb mana by fighting enemies? I gripped my sword, the question echoing in my mind. Suddenly, the sword's voice cut through my thoughts. No, I can absorb mana directly from your blood. A shiver ran down my spine. Just then, a figure on a brown horse approached. She was an armored captain, strong and imposing. I am Hyrai, captain of the vigilantes of the Tebe Autonomous Territory, she announced, introducing herself formally. My blood, I thought, pushing down the unsettling craving from the sword. Its cursed nature was undeniable. Vice Captain Hans of the Harang Knight's 2nd Squad. This is Archduke Halo's grandson, Hans announced, gesturing towards me. The sword, from within its sheath, cursed my name. Hyrai bowed slightly, her expression serious. The Tebe territory bears deep responsibility for this unfortunate incident, she stated, her voice solemn. Then, with a firm resolve, she added, by the mayor's command, we will escort the great ducal house members safely. From inside a carriage, I heard Hans acknowledge her words. We appreciate the escort, he said. There are many wounded, so please handle them carefully. The carriages rumbled on. Inside, I gazed out the window, my mind lost in thought. Are you sure you won't return to Chonghai Castle, my lord? Hans asked, breaking the silence. His brow was furrowed with worry. The investigation by the vigilantes and knights will take an uncertain amount of time. It's too soon to judge the threat gone. He paused, then pressed. Your decision is final? Zeres has been contacted, I reassured him, waving a dismissive hand. He's already on his way. He should be en route now. I added, you always overthink things, Hans. He paused, a flicker of concern still in his eyes. The Imperial Guard from the capital should also have departed by now, he said, trying to reassure himself. There's no need to worry. Hans, I began, my voice lower. Do you know the individual who self-destructed? He looked up, recalling the man I was asking about. He was a 6-star knight of the Pabar Sultanate, Hans explained, his expression grave. My mind immediately pictured it, a majestic, brightly lit city skyline, the Pabar Sultanate. His name was Cheyenne Hakimi, Hans confirmed. I listened intently, my thoughts drifting to the Pabar Sultanate. It was the neighboring country east of the empire, beyond the silent desert. Had Archduke Halo's non-aggression pact now been shaken? This situation was more complicated than I initially thought. Hans nodded, acknowledging my unspoken concern. Relations between the empire and the Sultanate have worsened, he said. He pondered for a moment, then added, but worsening relations alone don't account for such an extreme act. I turned to Leo, who sat nearby. Is this event enough to justify war? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I saw one of them flinch. I hesitated, then confirmed. Yes, it is indeed enough to justify war. Leo looked down, troubled. I didn't hear, he mumbled, avoiding my gaze. Leo held up a bloodied cloth, a look of distress on his face as he mumbled apologies for not hearing my question. I calmly explained to him that struggling after taking a life for the first time was natural. It's a heavy burden, and I urged him to overcome his current struggles. This is truly what living is, I continued, as Hyrai rode her horse alongside our carriage. Inside the carriage, Hyrai informed us that we would soon reach the autonomous territory, her escort visible through the carriage windows. I looked out, surprised by the impressive and fancy view unfolding before me. We soon arrived at the autonomous territory, revealing a sprawling and sophisticated city. It showcased intricate architecture and elevated structures under a clear sky. A grand stone pathway led directly to the territory's imposing, high-walled gate. Our horse-drawn carriage, still escorted by the Red-Beard Knight, neared the grand gate, and I heard the golden collar man affirm our destination. The mayor, a man named Grime, extended a welcoming gesture to our arriving party. Welcome to the Tebe Autonomous Territory, he announced, expressing relief that we had arrived safely. He then assured us that they would fully cooperate with House Reston's investigation. Just as he raised his hand, pausing to add another point, I heard Hans chime in. You seem very different from when you were Minister of Finance, Grime, Hans told him. Grime reacted with exasperation, gesturing with his hands. Sir Hans, I regret accepting this mayoral position, he sighed. He then politely diffused the situation, mentioning he was speaking nonsense in front of the Duke's family guest. I couldn't help but smile. Mayor, I began, please speak comfortably. I feel uncomfortable receiving honorifics from an elder. Grime's reaction was immediate shock and nervousness. I could not speak casually to the bloodline of a great ducal house, he stammered. I fixed him with a stern expression. Then kneel, I demanded, to show your sincerity. He panicked, quickly retracting his statement, eagerly accepting my kindness. Let's move to a new location to continue our discussion, I suggested, and Grime quickly agreed. Later, as a hand poured red wine into a glass, someone mentioned smuggling. The attackers destroyed the train tracks, I stated, my voice firm. They used explosives instead of mana. I continued, explaining that explosives of that quality could only be obtained through the Arms Supply Bureau. Grime hesitated, but eventually agreed with my statement. The Arms Bureau is under strict imperial control, I clarified, adding that smuggling explosives out of the Empire was nearly impossible. Then I turned to Grime, my gaze piercing. So, I asked, were the explosives smuggled in from outside the Empire? Grime visibly startled at my question. I gave an example, like the Pabar Sultanate, for instance. Only the Empire and the Sultanate could produce such high-quality explosives. I watched Grime, his expression thoughtful as he processed the implications of my words. I continued to press Grime, asking if Thebes merchant guilds being involved in this smuggling would cause me trouble. Grime's face tightened with urgent concern. He leaned forward, nodding. Smuggling is most likely, yes. I just looked at him, waiting for confirmation. If you disagree with me, I stated, my voice even, then you'll be suspected as an accomplice. I began a serious discussion, looking him dead in the eyes. Grime, there's one thing you need to keep in mind. Grime's brow furrowed. What is it? He asked. Both Harang Knights and Chonghai Castle members suffered casualties in this incident. I revealed, letting the weight of those words hang in the air. Grime's eyes widened in shock. Are they using this as an excuse? He sputtered. He looked grim, the implication clearly dawning on him. I watched as he clearly considered the formidable reputation of the Restons, a family known for repaying both grace and debts in extremes. I could see the realization hit him. If he didn't cooperate, he would be finished. Grime's eyes darted around, and I could practically hear him urgently thinking he needed to change the subject. Right now. So your father? Grime started abruptly. I looked at him, surprised. My father? Are we that familiar? I questioned, a hint of suspicion in my voice. Grime beamed. Why, I was on brotherly terms with your maternal grandfather, he enthusiastically explained. Ah, so that's it, I thought, the pieces clicking into place. Mentioning connections out of the blue like a politician, I mused, a slight smirk playing on my lips. Grime, as if reading my mind, then questioned, is anything more important to people than connections? I just watched him, unimpressed. Suddenly, a man burst into the room, frantic. Mayor! Mayor! He yelled, interrupting our ongoing discussion. He delivered urgent news from the capital. Grime waved a dismissive hand. I already know about the Imperial Guard's departure, he stated, clearly annoyed by the interruption. No, sir, the man insisted. The news extends beyond just the Imperial Guard. Grime froze, a startled thought flickering across his face. He realized the Commissioner of Taxation himself had departed, leading Special Division 1. His eyes went wide with disbelief. The Commissioner of Taxation? He repeated, his voice barely a whisper. He seemed to be processing the Commissioner of Taxation's departure, an imposing man as formidable as the Demon King himself. And then I saw him, Commissioner Gale Ferreton. Grime reacted with extreme shock and disbelief, his jaw dropping as he recognized the figure. It's Commissioner Gale Ferreton himself, he exclaimed. Grime turned to me, his eyes still wide. Karen, did you already expect the Commissioner's sudden arrival? I leaned back, a confident smirk playing on my lips. Of course, I confirmed. I expected him. I continued, explaining my confidence. My grandfather, you see, cherishes me dearly. I finished, my smirk widening. He'd drop everything to save a grandson in danger. Under the bright full moon of the Tebe Autonomous Territory, the night was alive around a large, ornate building. I moved through the lively streets, watching people in formal attire mingle. Ahead, a diverse crowd of men was gathering on a dimly lit street, and I spotted Gale among them, his brow furrowed, looking intently forward alongside his men. The full moon hung silent above us. From a dark passageway, a mysterious hooded figure observed the busy street and distant figures bathed in light, thinking about his grandson. Unseen, a group of individuals moved quickly through a dark passageway, someone declaring my swift arrival. Inside a lavish chamber, I heard a man in a green shirt protest a sudden tax investigation. "Why is this starting tonight?" he demanded, as the heated discussion continued. Another speaker questioned auditing with no preparation. I saw a man from behind express his frustration, stating that even a puppet mayor needed more notice than this. The whole room buzzed with intense agitation about facing Special Division 1. Everyone saying our opponents were getting out of hand. Concerned Grime was shouting from the central table, stressing the direness of our situation. He asserted a key point to the assembly. "Mayor Grime is correct," I stated, stepping forward. I began to address the assembly, detailing how His Majesty's railway had been destroyed. I revealed that Archduke Reston's grandson and people from Chonghai Castle had been attacked. I watched the group listen intently, their expressions shifting. "Explosives, smuggled through Tebe's trading guilds, are suspected," I concluded, and clear shock and concern rippled through the room. I smiled broadly, confident in my revelations, and asked, "Does everyone understand?" A man interjected, explaining, "We need more time to prepare." "And who are you?" I questioned, my gaze sharp. He flustered, startled. "I am Viscount Humor of the Humor Trading Guild," he introduced himself. I smirked, threatening, "I'll report you directly to your grandfather, the Commissioner of Taxation." The man recoiled immediately, pleading, I misspoke. Suddenly, a door dramatically swung open with a blinding light, causing me to flinch back. A man declared, "This is Special Division 1 of the Tax Bureau." A man in Gale stood imposingly in the doorway with other figures, all bathed in bright light. The man then announced, "The Commissioner is entering." The others in the room reacted with extreme shock and apprehension. Gale, stepping forward, emphatically declared that their trading guilds would now face a tax investigation. He announced that the Tax Bureau had received reports of illicit wealth and tax evasion. He then demanded full cooperation with the Emperor's ordered investigation. I watched him, thinking he seemed more like a soldier than a tax official in that moment. I overheard Leo ask Hans if Special Division 1 was truly that scary. So, Hans was explaining how Special Division 1 operates, telling me they handle all the big powerful guilds and nobles. He even said they could mobilize the Imperial Guard if they needed to. And if you don't pay your taxes to them, well, Hans made it clear you'd be getting a good old-fashioned beating. I watched the scene sternly, seeing Leo gasp at the implications. Then, I heard Gale address me. "It's been 3 years," he said, a warm smile spreading across his face as he asked, "How have you been?" "I'm doing well, grandfather," I cheerfully affirmed. "Treatment was truly unnecessary?" Gale pressed, his brow furrowed slightly. I assured him, "I'm fine, grandfather." Then he got straight to it, asking, "Do you have anyone in mind as the mastermind?" I smiled slightly. "I don't yet know who the mastermind is," I told him honestly. "Is it a family matter?" he asked next. I considered it. My uncles were cunning. They wouldn't leave a single trace in an incident like this. No, I believe the people behind the current incident deliberately left traces, and I explained this to Gale as he listened intently. I thought they might even want to blame the Pabar Sultanate. The perpetrators, I declared, hadn't even bothered to hide their identity. "Karen." Gale's voice startled me, and I looked up, a bit flustered, questioning the address as his hand rested gently on my head. He looked at me sternly. "Do you wish to find and punish the culprits yourself?" I paused thoughtfully, but then he firmly stated, "As your grandfather, I am against the idea." He acknowledged my talent, but then warned me, "The world is wide and full of powerful people." His arm went around my shoulders. "Dangers still wait for you even here," he concluded, telling me to stay put and go to the capital the next morning. He placed a hand on my shoulder as I looked forward, lost in thought. "His Majesty the Emperor has issued the same order," Gale stated. Then, with a serious expression, he said, "The adults will handle this matter." I listened, then smiled brightly at him. "Yes, grandfather," I agreed, affirming that I would behave quietly. Gale looked up, a troubled expression on his face, exclaiming his concern. I could practically hear him thinking in his mind if I had any intention of keeping my promise. My eyes glowed, revealing my true, concealed intentions. Suddenly, the scene shifted. I saw the Grand Ayun residence at night, a horse-drawn carriage waiting outside. An urgent voice commanded, "Move quickly." 2 workers were busily loading large boxes onto the carriage. "It's the last load," one declared. A man, seen from behind, demanded to know why they hadn't left yet. A worker quickly responded, "We just finished." Inside the carriage, a woman looked out with concern, asking a man, "Are you coming with us?" He reassured her, "I'll follow right after." Then he ordered the carriage to depart, and the worker acknowledged. His wife and kid called out to him in distress as the carriage pulled away. The man, a dark suit man, stood alone, watching the carriage disappear, his child's desperate plea for him to come quickly echoing in the night. I hear someone confirm the family was evacuated first. I see a man, his face grim, expressing his intense frustration in front of the building. Then the question of pursuit hangs in the air, and I hear someone confirm it. The pursuit is underway. I see a man and his 2 subordinates discussing the need to continue tidying up, and someone declares, "No mistake can be made." The unknown person confirms it. Then, out of nowhere, a 4th figure swiftly exits a nearby ledge. Meanwhile, I'm standing there, poised in my dimly lit room, holding my newly polished sword. The steel gleams. A shadow stretches across the tiled floor as an unseen voice questions me. "Still polishing your sword late at night, Karen?" it asks. I gaze down at my sword, a familiar weight in my hand, as the voice continues. "Are you planning to stir up trouble again?" I didn't expect the nagging to start so soon after my arrival, I reply, a hint of annoyance in my voice. Then, Zeres appears, his expression stern. "Zeres," I acknowledge. He simply gives a silent, almost imperceptible reaction to me calling his name. "The commissioner has forbidden you from going out," Zeres states, his voice flat. "Are you also here to stop me?" I challenge him. Zeres responds, "I only came to deliver the head of house's command." My eyebrows shoot up in surprise. "My grandfather's command?" I question. Zeres declares, "I will now deliver the command. Listen carefully." And just like that, I, Karen Reston, the youngest grandson of House Reston, am commanded to listen. My full attention is on him. Then the command comes. Grandfather Halo orders me to track down the culprits and make them pay for the dead. My pulse quickens. I process the grim command, the words echoing in my mind. My blue eyes widen, filling with a mix of seriousness and fierce determination. This is my chance. The final command is delivered. I am to clearly demonstrate the unwavering authority of Chonghai Castle's law. A sinister smile spreads across my face. I look up, letting out a deep, echoing laugh that fills the dim room. "Understood, head of house's command," I say, my voice laced with dark amusement. Zeres stands there with his arms crossed, silent, and I can almost feel him thinking that this upcoming night is going to be a long one. He's not wrong. "Do we really need to go this far?" Leo asked, walking beside me. I turned to him, my gaze firm. "We need to," I explained. "Our informant is waiting for us in the black market area." "But why do I have to play the servant?" Leo grumbled, clearly unhappy with his role. As we continued walking, I emphasized our destination, the east of Thebe. It's a dangerous area, rife with illegal dealings. I continued explaining my reasoning. Young nobles like us wouldn't just wander into a place like this without attendance. It would look too suspicious. Would our actions attract unnecessary suspicion? I wondered aloud. Leo seemed to grasp some of it, but I could tell he still had more questions brewing, still questioning why he had to be the servant. Still walking side by side on the dark street, I instructed Leo, "Quiet. We're nearing the place Zeres mentioned." Leo, now walking slightly behind me, voiced his discomfort. "This place is unsettling," he muttered. I looked back at him. "Turn back if you're afraid," I told him, a hint of concern in my voice. "This place isn't suitable for a young master." I gazed intently forward. Beside me, I saw Leo react with subtle surprise. What did it mean for us to appear here? I wondered aloud, remaining seriously focused, my hand instinctively moving to the hilt of my weapon. A shadowed figure emerged, greeting us. "I was sent by Zeres," I stated. The person then offered to escort the young masters. "My name is Julio," he introduced himself. He then proposed we move to a prepared safe house. Once inside, Julio explained the room was soundproofed, ensuring we could speak freely. I looked across the room at Julio, remarking, "You seem to have faced some hardships." He calmly listened, then simply stated, "I'm from Tebe." My gaze sharpened. How did someone from Tebe become an informant for House Reston? I asked. Julio explained that he was merely repaying the kindness Zaraz had shown him in his youth. I nodded, then suggested, "Let's get straight to the point." Julio then proceeded with the main discussion. My face serious, I began to ask, "Who knew we were heading for the capital?" I continued, my voice low and serious. "We've uncovered a plan to attack House Reston using smuggled explosives." Julio, holding a worn book, looked directly at me. "Do you know who the perpetrators are?" I pressed. "Yes," he confirmed. "I know exactly who they are." Holding the open book, Julio began revealing his investigation findings about the black market groups involved in trading explosives. He concluded his report, stating there were exactly 2 groups involved. They are Kerr and Caligo, Julio identified, then indicated a complication. The Kerr group, he explained, settled down in Tebe and left the black market. So, I asked, what about Caligo? Julio explained that the Caligo group consisted of former slaves who would do anything for money. He added that the Caligo members had actually left the city earlier today. Hearing that timing, I saw a flicker of surprise cross Leo's face. Leo immediately connected Caligo's departure to the recent attack. "This is highly suspicious," I agreed. Julio just listened, taking it all in. I kept my gaze on Caligo, those former slaves now completely driven by profit. What else did their involvement mean for us? My mind then shifted to Kerr, the group reportedly pulling back from the black market. Behind me, Leo listened intently. "We don't have time to investigate both Kerr and Caligo," he told me, then turned to me directly. "Where do we go next?" I smirked. The answer was obvious. "Those with nothing to lose always act recklessly," I stated, a cold resolve in my voice. "Our destination is Caligo." As we approached a bustling city street, the night lights illuminating the way, Julio offered to guide us to Caligo's black market. Grime asked Gale if he was truly okay leaving young Karen. Gale explained, "My in-law personally requested this." I had no choice. Grime simply stated, "Wolves have their own ways." Then he revealed, "Young Karen asked me for a favor." Gale acknowledged this with an inquisitive sound. Grime continued, "He wanted me to stop you from infiltrating, no matter the reason. He planned to move alone, ignoring the Archduke's permission." Gale remarked with frustration, "Karen." But Grime reassured him, "Don't worry, he's already proven his skills." Gale acknowledged the point, but remained concerned. "He's only 13 years old," he said. Grime, holding his wine bottle, replied, "For a genius, age doesn't matter." He then held up his glass and commented, "Your in-law chose to remain on the frontier." Gale explained, "Powerful families in the capital are fiercely scrutinizing House Reston. Many people there would do anything to gain favor with powerful houses. Tebe is exactly that kind of place." Grime expressed his deep concern with a slight hand gesture, mirroring Gale's exact worry. Gale emphasized, "The Emperor intervened in Tebe for this same reason. He intervened to ensure it wouldn't be solely driven by the self-interest of such men." Grime lamented, "My hopes for a peaceful retirement are now gone." Gale stated, "We should wait for Karen to finish his investigation safely." But Grime informed him, "There's one more thing you need to know." Gale listened intently, a thoughtful expression on his face, as Grime urged to share what he knew. "Sir Mason is in Tebe," Grime finally revealed. Gale expressed his disbelief at the shocking revelation. "The unyielding shield? The 8-star knight, Mason?" he asked, his voice full of shock. "What does this new information mean?" he exclaimed. Julio, Leo, and I arrived at a city street, the illuminated buildings around us announcing our presence. "Is this the only access point?" I asked Julio. He confirmed it. "It's the only one," he said, explaining that the building can be sealed from the inside in emergencies. I called the security measure brutal. I looked around the dimly lit, stone-walled room. It immediately struck me as a quintessential black market. Julio, ever confident, just headed further inside. "Entering would not be," Leo started, his voice laced with caution. I reacted with a questioning sound, wondering why he'd say that. Inside the dark, confined space, I saw an eye-patch man and another heavily armored person waiting. The eye-patch man greeted Julio, asking him, "What's happening?" "I brought guests," Julio stated simply. The eye-patch man wasn't having it. He told Julio, You know I only deal with big clients. He denied us entry, ordering us to leave. No customers allowed today, he declared. Julio questioned their refusal, but the eye patch man explained it was due to orders from the chairman. Julio pressed for a reason, but the eye patch man firmly reiterated, "We don't know the reason." He then urged us, "Guests, please leave peacefully." That's when I stepped forward. "Do you intend to attack us?" I asked, my voice cutting through the tension. Julio, startled, suddenly recognized me. "Young Master Karen," he gasped. I took another step, extending my hands in a clear, challenging gesture. "Go on," I dared the guards. "Take action." My voice grew aggressive. "Draw your swords." I challenged them directly, even as Julio pleaded with me to reconsider. Then I turned to Leo, my voice urgent. "Proceed with the second plan." Leo's eyes went wide with surprise and confusion. "Second plan?" he sputtered, clearly caught off guard. He reacted with disbelief. We have no such plan."